Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of the universe. And this is the Captain's Table, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. Today, we've got two semi-regulars, folks who you've seen before, and I'm sure you've seen them from their content as well, Mr. Red Monster and Mr. Space Tomato. I would like to note that I was about to give up on this week's Captain's Table because I tried to get people, and I was like, the original topic was, fauna, because I was like, it's fauna, and then 3.23 launched, and I'm like, maybe people are a little bit too busy. And then Red's Monster reached out and said, hey, I can talk about 3.23 if you want to talk, if you need. And I was like, sure. And then shortly afterwards, Tomato, I was on the Launch Sequence podcast. Tomato said, I could stick around for Captain's Table too. And I'm like, oh, great. So these two this Captain's Table is brought to you by these two. They're the ones who do this. So who got this in here. So before we get started, though, let's get introductions. We'll start with you, Mr. Red Monster. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
Yeah, well, I am Red Monster SC. I primarily focus on industrial gameplay. So that's going to be salvage and mining, exploration as we get it, and, of course, like base building and those things. You can find me here on Twitch. I live stream a couple of times a week. I also do live streams and videos over on YouTube. And if you are out there doing any type of mining and you see some charts about where to go find stuff, chances are that was my hard work and dedication to pull that together. So
awesome. And where was it? It's YouTube, mostly YouTube, right? YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah. So Twitch TV/RedMonsterSC or then YouTube.com/RedMonsterSC.
Oh wow! So you have the branding. So
yeah. There's a reason not like just regular Red Monster. I had to add the SC on the end to get it all aligned across. But
I feel that I was almost AstroPub, but then there was a Twitter account that had AstroPub, but I couldn't get, so I had to change it to TheAstroPub.
So.
Yeah.
It's better than going for years and then finding out on like some new platform or something.
Yeah. Space Tomato, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I make videos for YouTube mainly, but also stream a lot on Twitch and on YouTube. Both of those things. Whoa! There's a bug in my. Get out of here! It's nighttime and the lights are on, so bugs are gonna fly in here. It's that season. Both those things happen on YouTube.com/SpaceTomato, and then I also have a second channel, Space Tomato 2, deep dives into development, podcasts, long form stuff, and then third channel, Space Tomato Plays, where there's gameplay going up now. But then me and my wife, we run this all together, and we have a community on Discord. So I'm always telling people, if you want a place to come and chill, hang out, talk, you don't have to be Star Citizen related. You can just come. We have a lot of other stuff going on, and that's also where you can find our stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a lot of it.
All right. So the topic for today, the overall topic is going to be 3.23 and like the direction that 3.23 is moving Star Citizen into. But before we can get into that direction of where we're going with 3.23, we kind of need to know what is in 3.23 and in terms of like your opinions on it. I'm not going to go over the exhaustive list of what's in 3.23 because you can look that up on the internet. Please do. Because it's huge. It's massive. Like CIG has decided that they're going to post it on in all caps everywhere. So like if you look at any of the announcements, it's just all caps. It's things like, let me see if I can find the list here. Replication layer split, new fauna, Vulcan renderer, server crash recovery, vehicle master modes, DLSS FSR integration, reactive water physics, new character customizer, seamless EVA traversal, new distribution centers, Mirai Pulse LX, streamlined looting, overhauled Mobi-Glass UI, new cloud fog deck, new star map, new FPS minimap. It's good. Like it just goes and goes and goes.
They listed the variants of the bike.
Yes, they did. They did. So that's a lot, but as we all know in Star Citizen, sometimes that one of those things can mean everything. Like one thing can mean everything. The other thing, another time, it could just be a barista that they added. CIG has
the bartender.
Yeah, the bartender mechanics and stuff like that. So it really depends on, like the context of what we get, because a lot of times it's just stuff like you already see that in there right now with like as you said, the Mirai Pulse and the Mirai Pulse LX, like really like that's got equal level with replication layer split and Vulcan master modes.
Yeah.
It's that's a big thing. So
Well, it's kind of like how the one thing that's not in this patch, or at least this initial part of the patch, is like for a lot of people 90% of the weight of what it was supposed to be.
Yeah. So with all of that said, I want to know your thoughts on 3.23 in terms of what we're getting. Like just your initial impressions, goods, bads, kind of in betweens. And I'll start with you on this one, Space Tomato. Just rapid fire out. Think at top of your head. What is 3.23 in terms of like your experience, your kind of take on it so far?
It's this is something that I mentioned to you on the podcast earlier today. It feels like the first half of another 3.0. So like 3.0 was huge shift to this game. Planetary landing, new mission systems, the star map, quantum travel, all this stuff. And it all happened really quickly because they took forever. It took forever to get it to us. But then it kind of like got better later in the year. And so you didn't realize how much stuff had changed until the game could actually run it that well. And it feels kind of like we're at that same stage, not necessarily in that it's not running, but like this feels like the first half of a huge change to Star Citizen. Not necessarily a change in the direction per se, though we'll get to that a little later, I think. But a change in like the kind of, I guess, quality level. I wouldn't say that they're delivering stuff all of a sudden super high quality, but you can feel how much more this is prepared to be a game than just the alpha they've been doing this whole time.
All right. Red Monster, same question. Rapid fire, top of your head. How does what does 23.23 feel like? What the stuff?
I feel like it's definitely we're turning over the stone into what feels like a new game, right? The fundamental ways that you interact with the systems, the fundamental flight model changes with master modes, those things. There are people who haven't played the game in a long time, right? People who dropped it after like 3.18 have been waiting for these type of updates. They're coming back in, and it feels exciting to come in and relearn how those new systems are working. It feels like it's starting to breathe a little bit more life into the universe. The distribution centers, those large underground facilities and things that give you more points of interest outside of the bespoke landing zones on each planet and each moon. With the new star map, obviously that was one of the areas that was really lacking in previous patches, made it really difficult to try and navigate your way through. I feel like that's a huge improvement, as well as the local minimap. So those have been fantastic. And then while I haven't had a chance to experience them, kind of the original topic, the fauna, right? Bringing in more wildlife into the universe, because, you don't really notice it because we've been so used to it. But outside of, kind of the environmental sounds, the sounds of like wind and stuff like that, the verse feels fairly dead, right?
Dead.
You're out there and you're mostly alone. It's quiet. There's nothing else going on. There aren't NPCs, except for like bounty hunting missions and stuff. Nobody's traversing, and like you're not going to run across anybody unless it's another player. So I feel like all of those changes combined kind of lead into a game that really is starting to feel like a fresh game, something new that we can be excited about. I know some of the features that didn't make it in are pretty disappointing. I would have loved to have those, but we're going to see those over the next couple of updates. So
okay. I'm going to echo a lot of what y'all said. I feel like this is part 1 of 4.0. That's what this feels like. This feels like the pre 4.0 4.0. Like they got to get all this stuff done so that 4.0 can exist. And to a degree, that is true. Like things like this, the replication layer split is required for server meshing. But even like the reputations thing that they added, apparently it's not really active in the game, but it's there in the background. So it's very much a this is for pyro kind of edition. They even said it like that's what this is mostly for is pyro. So, and I think they said it works for Grimhex sort of and the Dusters faction, the ones that matter.
Hey,
so
can I ask you a question, by the way, about that?
Sure.
Not to derail too much, but they mentioned you remember the neutral area they mentioned in the monthly report earlier?
Yeah.
And then I think they, like you just said, they came out and said they kind of said that Grimhex is going to be a neutral zone. And I don't know if they were trying to link those two terms together, but the way they described it as a neutral zone, that if somebody entered into that zone and they had a bad reputation with anybody in that zone, that reputation would just be wiped, right? That the people wouldn't respond. So does that mean Grimhex is going to be a place where even if you have bad rep with Ninetales and you go in there, Ninetales won't care?
I don't know. It seems like that's what they're moving towards. That may be also a temporary thing where they're putting that in there because they want to make sure that it's a testing zone. Because one of the things that they had, I know what the big thing that they had was, one of the big questions they had, or the feedback they had was, people were mad that with the idea that someone could go and commit a crime and then show up in Seraphim Station.
Yeah.
And because they weren't actually criminals, they would, but they had a bad reputation that they might get they wouldn't get attacked, or they might something like that. It was something like that. They were mad that the criminals could be attacked at there even if they didn't commit a crime, and whereas like you didn't have the same problem with Grimhex or something like that. There was some confusion, and people were getting Spectrum mad about the changes, and so they made it so that the neutral zones were a little bit different. But then you're right that they said that Grimhex is a neutral zone, which is kind of like, oh, I don't know what that means. So
that confused me a bit. All right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, but yeah, in general, it feels good, but it feels right now it feels very like a flash versus substance sort of patch. More flash, less substance. There's substance. The performance is fantastic, and the improvements in lighting is amazing. And of course, the replication layer means no more 30Ks. So that should be a huge boon for everybody. But at the same time, it feels almost like a half patch, even though it's, the amount that didn't make it into the final cut for the first release was only about 25% of the patch. It's still, that was a huge substantive chunk of it.
Yeah. I do feel like they've delivered more substance than what we got with the original 3.18 patch that brought in a lot of the invisible technology side. That was really heavy on the back end stuff that wasn't fully apparent, and we got a couple of things. We got some salvage, and I forget the entire bill for 3.18, but
it was like tractor beams racing. It was a huge amount.
There were some features there, but I feel like it kind of that was a little bit more thin on the actual gameplay side. It was more of the technical. Here it feels like, well, we're still getting technical stuff that has been doing really well. Last night there was kind of the rush to get in. There was some login queues, but once I was in, I ran on a same server for 3-4 hours with no issues, right? And getting people in, doing that consistently on launch day, that was awesome, because I know with 3.18 I was in a login queue and half of my party could get in and I could not, and there were people who were locked out for months. I feel like it's a lot more successful on the technical side, and obviously working with the different levels of technology that they're being kind of implementing in this patch. I feel like it's got more substance, certainly, but yeah, some of the key things, the hangars and the cargo lifts would have been really, really cool to get in. But,
let's kind of pivot to that real quickly. Does it matter? I'll just say this, because does it matter that the cargo lifts, the hangars, the inventory system, the cargo missions, does it matter that it didn't make it this version? Does that kind of nullify this patch in terms of its substance in terms of the gameplay. Red Monster, since we'll start with you. You're the industrial focused guy as well, so this is probably your bread and butter and this sort of
Yeah.
thing. Do you think this take away from the 3.23's release?
It certainly cut down a lot of the hype that I was feeling about it, because like being able to offload your material, get it into another player's ship, that type of thing, like passing your inventory back and forth, that's kind of where an org would really have a huge amount of a benefit from an industrial standpoint. Yeah, I feel like it shaved a lot of the hype away from what the patch could have been, but at the same time, like I am firmly believe that we need to do it right.
Mhm.
If they didn't feel like it was up to the quality level and they released something that was, we see this a lot, like Salvage is a great example. They give you the sliver of what it's supposed to look like, and you kind of just have to wait on that. I feel like releasing the cargo lifts in kind of a half workable state where it's not really what it's intended to be, but they just had to get us something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would have been a huge mistake, and it would have probably tainted the reputation of that particular feature. Right now salvage is ridiculously simple, but
Mm-hmm.
It's not the final end state, but they don't have people working on it.
Yeah, so I feel so it's like that felt more like we wanted to get this at the end of the year, we kicked it in, and you don't want that kind of thing to happen again.
Yeah, give us a half-baked version. I don't think that would be the right way to do for the cargo lifts, especially since it will be a very integral feature for group gameplay.
Okay. Tomato, your thoughts? Is the stuff that was missing from the initial release, does that kind of retract from this release itself?
Oh, it definitely retracts from it. I mean, does
it make it worse though?
I think honestly, I feel like it's fun to get hyped about updates and be excited about specific updates, but we're at this point, and I think it's been kind of this way since maybe 3.17, where it feels a lot bigger picture. Everything that they are working on right now is going to get done at some point. If the cargo people have to delay a little bit to release their feature, the folks who are working on like other missions or the economy or new vehicles, they're not really stopping that much. They might have some stuff that hangs up on them, but I'm not looking at this feature being delayed and thinking, oh no, the rest of the game is gonna fall behind because of this. If we see this in 2 months, I'm disappointed about it. It's a bummer that it's not changed, honestly, because we've been going through this cargo refactor for so long and waiting for it to finish. But at this point, like Red said, I'd rather see it done right and soon. And everything that's going on right now, in my mind, is preparation for 4.0. We're just in the primer stage. So like, button it up, make sure it's good, because 4.0 is the prime time. Right now is a great launch for them. They seem to be doing well. The marketing's looking good. People are happy. There's a queue. It's kind of rough, but like it's going relatively well. And I think that's good. But really the 4.0 launch is their big chance to shine. So get everything finished before then.
Okay. Yeah, for
everything.
My gut reaction when that happened was they just gutted this. They just shelled it out and put it in there. With reflection and looking at it, I'm like, it's not as bad, but it's like a gut punch when they did that. It was just like, oh God, this was the thing that was important, and this was the thing that I thought was prime. But and the reality of things is, it's not like it's been cut. It's not like it's gone. It's just going to be here in a month or two, because I think the hard look at it is, it wasn't going to have enough time for testing and to kind of feel out the bugs before Invictus launched. And so it was one of those things where, what can we get in before Invictus? This is it. Everything else, move it to after Invictus. As much as CIG won't say that's the reason why. It was an Invictus cut, because they needed to. They had a pre-scheduled things they had to get done, and that had to be put out. And so, that feels bad. It feels bad because it's like,
Yeah, the hard deadline they had with Invictus, I think, played into that. If that wasn't a factor, I can certainly see them delaying and trying to put some time in. But at the end of the day, looking at what was on the table, what features they had, and their confidence level to get it out, yeah, it sucks to see it delayed. But they also, I feel like we've got to they've got to balance the opportunity to release something early, maybe in an unpolished state, and how that's going to affect the reputation of that system or, the game. We see a lot of games nowadays that are released in kind of a minimum viable product stage, and it doesn't always turn out that well.
No.
So
here we are playing Star Citizen though.
I mean, that is, we're going to bring that up a little bit because we're going to talk about minimum viable products when we talk about 4.0 and 1.0 as well, because that is a topic that's going to come up here.
I want to real quick before we move on. I want to point to what Red said, that like this is an important system. We've been using the same actually a lot of the stuff in 3.23 is replacing stuff we've been using since 2017, and the cargo system was the first set of missions we got in the new kind of age with bounty hunting, I think it was, and cargo. We got those one box delivery missions, and that was where it all began, and that's what we've been doing for 7 years. If they were to drop in a replacement that didn't work, that's worse than them sticking with the broken system they have now, because that doesn't build any confidence in what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think comparing that back to like mining, where we had a system that was working, they redistributed, and profits for everyone were cut. The gameplay became a lot more frustrating. That's turned a lot of people off, at least in the short term, until they get that done. That same type of thing could happen with the cargo.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I was just trying to think about this. Yeah. I also noticed you're wearing a Mighty Nine shirt, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple folks in the chat have wished me bidet. So.
Oh gosh. I will say that overall, though, I think we're all kind of feeling this. It's like 3.23 is not a bad patch. Would you say that is a bad patch?
No, it's a freaking great patch, man. Yeah. Like, this is one of my favorite patches of all time with this game. It's not bringing in a ton of content, but if you look back through the last 23 patches we've got, how many of them do? Like, we would get, it would be the occasional patch where you would see new missions come in or a new style of gameplay. Like, what was it? Salvage, I think. Salvage was the first new profession we'd gotten in years.
Yep.
Like it's not like we were eating good before this. I know we lost some of the momentum that people might have been feeling, but looking back 2 years ago, if this patch had dropped then, we'd be losing our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can see that. And I think one of the biggest things, and this is going to sound memey, but it isn't, it's the map. The map was the biggest thing.
That's really what
Everyone hated the map. CIG hated the map. Everybody wanted the map to die. And CIG did the thing that I had always wanted them to do, which is you have an award-winning map that you've built for a website that literally won, I think, multiple awards for like web design. And then you created this abomination of a map.
Yeah.
Just use this. And basically what they did was they took that and then improved upon it. So it's like, let's take our award-winning map and turn it into the map for the game. And it shows that it's good. It works.
I cannot wait to see if they include the little filters, like get that sort of filter information, however that functions, whether that's info running that you have to get it from or what, but like the population, danger, economy, all that kind of stuff. I can't wait to see that in the mapping game.
Yeah, and that's this kind of stuff they can do with this new substance and stuff like that. So, when I say it feels more flash than substance, what I mean is that it feels more like a paint over of what we have. But the other thing to point out is that a lot of the stuff that we're getting in is now able to evolve to it. It's the 3.18, 3.17 kind of problem where CIG will get us to the point where we already like kind of status quo. New tech, status quo. We're still the same game, still the same stuff, still the same quantum system and all that kind of stuff, but new map. It improve this. So we're kind of moving towards that, but it allows for evolution from that. So,
And a normal interaction system.
yes, a normal, sane interaction system.
Man.
I'm glad the inner thought system is dead mostly. Unfortunately, I think it's still around somewhere, but the story behind that is nuts, because I believe the story goes that Chris Roberts really liked the kind of effects they used for the BBC show Sherlock, where he's like, and so he took inspiration from that for the inner thought system and wanted to use that. And it's like, Chris, Sherlock sucked. Like it imploded on itself in terms of storyline. It had a lot of flash and no substance. Please don't. And then from almost from day one, everyone hated the inner thought system, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So it's like, ugh.
It used to be worse, folks. Go back to the Squadron 42 vertical slice, and you'll see it in full glory. The freaking wavy words that look like the letter cereal floating in milk, like you could barely click on it because it's like flowing around the screen.
Yeah, and that was
Mass Effect did this so long ago.
Yeah, but not just Mass Effect. Like so many games have done this.
Yeah. They were not the first.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's part of the perspective, kind of in the simulated video game environment. Like, how do you accurately portray like the level of interaction you can have, like the number of things you can do? It's hard to display that in a visual format to give the player those cues, but
I think
there are good solutions and bad solutions.
Do you think the wheel is good?
With the current, I'm still kind of getting used to it. But yeah, I mean, right now I don't have too many issues. I know certain prompts are kind of ending up off screen unless you're looking at the right place, but I feel like it's enough. Like, the radial menus, I think, were originally brought in with consoles because you had such a limited interaction, and they kind of brought that over to PC, and I'm on the fence about it. Like, certain places it makes sense to do, but if you've got more than like 3 or 4 options, you probably want to go to more of a menu grid style.
Yeah.
And that's the way I'd go about it.
Yeah, I'm okay with the radio menu, mostly because it's I'll say that's another theme, and if you feel free to jump in on this one. I'd say the theme of this, and it will kind of help bounce us over to the next topics, but the theme of this patch seems to be a lot of the new direction that CIG is moving for gameplay, where it's becoming more gamified. So it's a less emphasis on sim and more emphasis on game. And it's also becoming more cinematic, something that CIG likes to talk about a lot. He used to talk about it all the time. It used to be up there with immersion in terms of, whenever Chris says it, you drink. Cinematic experience kind of thing used to be a big catchphrase in the games industry. I think it's still kind of fallen out of favor, but that's definitely what CIG's been kind of pushing towards. And I think this is one of those things that's causing some consternation. That cinematic experience is moving master modes to where the direction is. Things like FPS and the radial system, stuff that's more not necessarily flash, but more showy. It's easier to kind of like see, and makes it more easy for people to like engage in the content. So less placeholder. That's a good way of putting it. Well,
and the new looting system as well, right?
Yeah, that feels game. That's a game system straight up, which is nice. It's good. I actually use it a lot.
It feels finished. Yeah. I mean, not finished, but like there are little things in the UI, that they wouldn't have ever spent time on before. We look at the way the star map was before, and you could tell that they built the star map for whatever it was that was going on with that alpha at that time. You can tell they built this star map for a game. And there's like little touches, like audio cues and little details and animations that they wouldn't have spent time on before, because they knew that stuff was going to get replaced. And I feel like we can see the very clear signs here that these are finalized products that just need to be iterated on, as opposed to systems that they're putting in that might get replaced with 5.0 or something like that.
Yeah.
I hope.
We hope. Yes, I do echo that. This is the like, I know there's been a lot of, especially for older backers, a lot of, subtle if not overt fear that CIG was going to go with another 2.0 to 3.0 situation where they just throw everything out that they've done before and then start from the beginning. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like this is it. And I think that's also why some people are panicking, because you go, this is it. Here's master modes. And you realize this is where they're going. They might deviate a little bit. They might wiggle a little bit inside of it, but this is the mode. This is what we have. This is the game. And I think for a lot of people, that's kind of like a panic mode. Like, but I don't like this. This isn't what I want. And, that sets in that fear.
It's interesting because we're getting things like engineering and control surfaces, which very clearly lean more into the sim side of things and the more complex side. But then, just in the last year and a half alone, we've seen the introduction, not just like bringing something back up, but the actual change to the game of player skill systems, of bed logging not being an exclusive way to log out, of master modes, artificially limiting speeds. Like, these are definitely some changes to the design, and they might be bringing the game more in line with what it would take to be a game that can survive and last. But it's kind of rough to see some of it happen. We all talked about the fact that this would be happening over time slowly, and there's definitely going to be a balance of how much they kind of, I don't know, streamline for this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And we talk about that balance between the authentic simulation versus the cinematic experience. Like, that's part of what the master modes push is, right? They're putting a hard limit on the realism in the simulation side, saying, oh, you got to go from SCM into, your quantum travel modes, but things shut down. Like, you're not going to be able to engage in combat. You're not going to have your shields. This is to drive a more cinematic dogfighting experience within the simulation, but it's got limits. And to go the other route, like, if you wanted to be fully realistic, I don't feel like those are cinematic moments at all. It's more of engaging on a terminal and saying, okay, this ship's position is going to be way out here. You're looking through telescopes, and barely getting glimpses. It's that difficulty level. It's hard to do. Like, I think about some of those battles from like in The Expanse, right? That these ships aren't usually toe to toe in close quarters. Like, you're dealing with long ranges. It's missiles going back and forth, and it's not exactly the most realistic to be in a simulation and just have to stare at engineering terminals and those.
It's not engaging. It's not engaging to sit there and be like, engage your PDS and then like minimal movement and stuff like that. So
so they've got to paint that
activate.
They've got to paint that cinematic experience for us as players. And it's interesting to see kind of, Yogi's responses on the master modes and their feedback, what they wanted to do, and that we're still iterating on it. I'm interested in that. Like, I've never been huge on the dogfighting like PvP side, but obviously it's what they're working for is going to try and strike a delicate balance.
Yeah. So before we get into the more of the kind of beyond this patch, let's talk a little bit more about what's coming out soon. Let's talk about Invictus, because Invictus is coming out in the next week or so. It's next Friday, I believe, is when Invictus starts. And we've got a couple of previews. There's one that CIG has insistently been talking about, and since I've got two members of the founder and a member of the Saber Ravens Club, I'll hit it off to you there, Red Monster. What do you think about the spicy chicken?
Yeah, the Ember Turkey. So a lot of speculation about like, is it gonna be a Raven Mark II? And I think no. They've hinted at, they had the fire and the chicken emoji or whatever. Like, it might be the Phoenix. There are some people who are concerned that reusing the name might be bad, but CIG's done that before. I think it's going to have a different mode. Like, the Saber Raven was an EMP, like stealth, kind of. I think if it's a Phoenix or if it's a Firebird, whatever it is, it could be a QED dampener. It could be potentially just a dedicated racer. Maybe they're going to have two variants there, because I think it would do great as a racing, kind of the inspiration behind the initial ship chassis. Nathan Dearsley was a huge, Formula One racing fan, and that's where he was when he was designing that ship, pulled a lot of that out. So, I think it's going to go, if there's a quantum dampener, that would be awesome. But like, yeah, get a racing variant in there too. Like we've got a Saber Raven Owners Club like racing team, a couple of folks that are in there with Anzia and Atmo Esports to help participate. So we'd love to see it.
Nice. And you mentioned like it's CIG's reused names. Yes, they can really, if they call it the Saber Phoenix, I wouldn't be mad, but I will make fun of them for knowing 7 words.
Yeah.
and I feel like I need to hand CIG a dictionary. Be like, please use more of these words. They exist.
Call it the Saber Quantum. All right.
Oh yes.
Get it out of the way. Let's do it.
No. Call it the Saber Star Quantum.
Yeah.
A lot of immersion there. I can feel the immersion. It's cinematic.
What are your thoughts on the Ember Turkey, the spicy chicken, the Firebird there at Space Tomato?
Ooh, blackened spicy chicken strips. Oh gosh, I haven't had Popeyes in a while. I'm interested in, as we're seeing in chat and as they've talked about, I think over the course of the last year, a couple times on monthly reports, they are gold standardizing the Saber Raven.
Apparently, it's in 3.23.1, which just got released to the PTU. Like it's in the gold standard's in there. So
yeah, so weird.
Yeah,
because why? I guess I was thinking it would be because they were gold standarding the Saber, but now the Raven is more updated than the Saber. I thought maybe because the Saber is in Squadron. I don't know, but it's being brought up to gold standard, and so I guess that's probably because they just had another ship that they were building that was pretty closely based off of it, and so it was a easy job to finish. Which makes me think, how much different will it really be from the Raven?
Yeah.
If they're bringing it at the same time, it seems like, as the gold standard of the Raven, maybe they just decided to group them together. Who knows? But I'm interested in another E-War ship, especially because we don't know much about E-War, but with the way that they're going with the game and actually how much focus they seem to be putting on rounding everything out, I feel like we're going to see some cool stuff when it comes to quantum dampening and interdiction. Like, I think we'll see a pretty decent overhaul on that, maybe with the quantum travel rework we might see in 4.0. So I'm actually kind of excited to see what they do with the ships in that category.
Yeah. Well, and, I think for the quantum interdiction, like a lot of the ships that we have right now, they're limited in speed. Like they would have to be very well piloted in order to keep up with targets on a long term, right? And bouncing in there with something that might be potentially a little bit faster, that could be an interesting niche to fit. But
yeah,
that's all speculation.
A racing ship with a QED is kind of an insane idea, and it's very M50 coded, because that's originally what CIG envisioned the long-term goal of the M50 was kind of a tackle ship designed to chase down fast criminals and stop them from
it's like an interceptor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question: do you guys think that they are getting anywhere closer to actually releasing these vehicles and ships based on plans of the next year or so? Because I feel like they'll do something, they'll release something, and I'm like, ooh, maybe that means, you start reading the monthly reports and you're like, oh, maybe they're looking to do that because they released this, right? And I'm like, maybe this is something they want to do to build on capital ship gameplay and anti-cap gameplay. But I always get caught in that trap, and it never ends up being like that.
Yeah. I can tell you right now what it is, because this is what I was going to say, is that this is the thing that's going to sound really weird, but I'm going to Occam Razors this. There's only one way to get a Raven, and that's with an Optane drive.
Mm-hmm.
There is another ship that is exclusive to like an old graphics
AMD
card which is
The Mustang
AMD's
Omega.
Omega.
Yeah.
But the Omega has a non-exclusive variant, which is the Gamma. They're basically the same ship with just like a skid and a little bit of a greeble change. But there is no Raven, basic or Raven, Gamma version.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty certain that that's what this is. The lava goose, the saber lava goose is just CIG's attempt at like we want to sell the Raven, but we can't. And it tracks with what CIG's been doing. Like, what's the other ship they sold? The F7, Mark II.
The most disappointing answer, Paul. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah,
it's done. They have the assets for it. Let's just push it out there because it's
right. That's what I'm saying. Gold standard.
And gold standard for it. I will say it is one of the most visually unique looking ships. I feel like they've done a fantastic job. It seems like almost a waste to not be able to get that into everyone's hands in some form or another. But maintaining the exclusivity on the initial, they were tied into a contract with Intel. We don't know what that contract looks like, but we do know like they were only able to get like there was like a recent giveaway that Intel had sponsored for like three new ships, 3 new codes they gave off for those. Everything else was tagged with that Optane drive, and I think it's pretty well locked in. Now a variant, like, that's fine. Like I would love to see the ship a little bit more out there, like that style. I feel like it makes sense to use that in something that they can still market and sell. But, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a straight copy though. CIG, it's not CIG's style to do a straight copy.
Yeah.
I agree.
A little bit.
CIG loves their tackle. They love their quantum interdiction ships. So they've added more of them out there. Like look at the Scorpius that has the QED as well. It's like the Scorpius and Terry's, I think. So yeah, I could see them do it. I could see it.
I feel like the Raven should be something that you can get in game. I guess that's maybe also part of the agreement.
Yeah, because you can't get the Raven in game because it's exclusive. Same with like the Gamma. So
yeah,
of course, Mark Gibson patching in here, who's currently leading the group that's doing the gold pass on it.
Okay, cold. Are we cold, or am I being cold by saying it's we can sell it?
Give us more reasons. Explain.
Yes, please.
Why we're wrong.
Please.
Yeah.
And I honestly though I think that we've seen that trajectory where it's CIG has what do we have finished, what can we get out, because they got other fish to fry. Like we've seen them working on the the Apollo. We've got the NURSA coming out soon. We've got the MPUV got its update. We've got the Polaris. We've got like CIG has like a line of ships that I like keeps me up at night. So I have no idea how the ship team doesn't sit there and go, oh god damn, bro, how are we gonna do like these 50 ships left? So
I have a folder here on my desktop. I just sent you the picture. Just named all the ways the ship backlog hurt me because like there's so many good ships just filled with pictures of ships we're waiting for. The Apollo is such a freaking tease. Like I can't believe they went and dropped that in the sprint report last year in like
in November,
October.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't say anything about it at CitizenCon. Nothing about it in any of these letters or monthly reports. They're just like, yeah, we're working on it, but you don't know anything else about it.
The Legionnaire was mentioned last month too for that too. It's like what is all of this? So so I can understand the like, we got something, let's take this, let's throw it out there, let's let the backers have it, let's let them interact with it. So
do we even want to get into the Banu Merchantmen, or as I've deemed it, the Blue Balls Merchantmen? They let us on with that ship for a year, and I understand the reason why it was shelved, but yeah, that one hurt real bad.
Yeah, that's gonna go down in history. That was a oh god, they were hyping that up for a while.
That hurt so hard. It hurt. It hurt, but I also think that it's like a as one CIG employee told me at one point, sometimes you got to break a bone, or sometimes a bone is broken, you got to set it. When you set that bone, it's going to hurt like hell, but it's going to be better for the long term for it. That was Jake, when Jake did the long term roadmap roundup, or the long term release view stuff, because when they changed it, they were like, it's not viable. It's causing more problems than it's worth. We need to set the broken bone, and it's gonna hurt.
Ooh.
But
yeah.
But we do it, and then it is better, and we'll heal over time. And that's what happened. I think we've gotten a better communication flow from CIG as a result of that. And I think that's the same thing with Banu Merchantman. The Banu Merchantman hurt. It hurt bad, but I do think that the CIG ship team has improved because of that. Mm-hmm. They've gotten better. They've grown. They've learned how to, improve their workflows and everything else like since then. So,
PES, another broken bone.
Yeah, that's another bone that they had to set. It's you learn a lot. Like a lot of people, I think, don't understand that a lot of every game that every developer builds is a new game for everyone. Like there's no you can take your previous experience and what you're doing, but it's new because like anything you're going to do, you're going to have to tackle it a different way than you've done it in the past. Having experience can help, but it's not always going to be the case because sometimes weird shit happens. So every lesson you learn is like, well, I'm not going to do that again. that's not where we're going to move anymore. And you learn more about what the limits are for your team or for your engine or whatever thing else you have. So
it's taking a few broken bones sometimes to get that.
Sometimes you got to break a few bones before I'm not going to yeet myself off a cliff anymore. That's a bad idea.
Yeah. But what are they going to learn about ships and the design? I think we look at the Gitax Sulen, like the textures and things that went into that ship that were amazing. By the way, for that style of that size of ship, the amount of detail blew me away. Right. And getting these artists and these designers in, to bring both the visual side of it, but also the technical side, what they're going to be able to do with those ships moving forward. I think it's better to do it late, kind of. I think I still am holding on to a Miskin, the Endeavor, in one of my buybacks, just because that's going to be one of the last ships they work on. But I feel like that's one of the only.
Are you saying you're a member of the cult of the Endeavor, like me and Space Tomato?
I'm a reserved believer. Like I said, it's in the buybacks. It's not one I've locked in with a pledge.
That is all of us. All of us at the Cult of the Endeavor have a $5 upgrade for an Endeavor sitting somewhere in our back.
I will never buy one in real life. I will not be the card carrying member, but I am wholly subscribed to the beliefs of the Endeavor, the Church of Our Almighty Father, the modular.
Yeah.
Well, one of the few MISC ships I would buy.
when the MISC day for Invictus happens, watch the Inforunners episode on it, because that is the papacy of the Church of the Endeavor, and they will explain to you why you should join the Cult of the Endeavor, because it is the more you look at that ship, the longer you look at the ship, the more you realize that thing's gonna get thick. It's gonna grow so much, and it's right now its price is an absolute ridiculously low for the type of ship it's going to be. So, and it's $5 for an upgrade from a ship that you could get, lock it in right now. It's like, that's really good. It's really good.
Ridiculous.
So, yeah, it's ridiculous how much that is. So, all right, so now let's talk about some of the other ships before we move on to kind of the longer term stuff. So, what is your favorite ship that's coming up that's been hinted, and why is it our short orange king, the MPUV, getting its tractor beam upgrade there, Space Tomato?
Because
just
the
no.
Argo
If
MPUV is
if
the
you
best
say the
ship.
Okay. I was gonna say, if you said the
I-
wrong
from
answer,
what-
we will execute you. So that's
From what I've
the
heard,
point.
from what I've heard, the only reason that Admiral Bishop does not fly around in an Argo MPUV is because it doesn't have a big enough gun for the Vandal.
There we go.
Otherwise, that's supposed to be the commanding ship in the UEE fleet. So, yeah, obviously, I'm excited for the Argo MPUV. But also, there are a couple other ships.
Okay.
I am really excited for the ship we don't know what the heck it is, because it could be Anvil or Crusader or RSI from the video in November, and I'm excited for that because I love the unknown. I also though am, let's see, what am I looking forward to that they've talked about? Geez. Honestly, I think the Apollo is probably the next most exciting to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unknown stuff being worked on though, and I guess we're seeing some of it now with these teases for Invictus Week, but I feel like there's still a couple more that they haven't really told us about this year.
Yeah. Red
Yeah.
Monster.
I'm curious to see what's going to be announced, like what they've managed to keep secret. And, having those drop is going to be exciting. I'm a Polaris owner and very happy to see that at least getting an exterior view brought in. I'd love to be able to actually get in and fly that one around once it's at that stage. I feel like what was it, the Zeus? That's a ship that I've been really excited. I actually, that's the CitizenCon poster for it right there.
Nice.
So I'm definitely like, I'd love to see the interior of that, because what initially sold me on like upgrading from a basic starter package was the ship shape of the Constellation. I think the Andromeda that they showed, it was like kind of the first big multi-crew ship, and I loved that interior. I felt like it was phenomenal, and I that's kind of converted me to an RSI fanboy. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to the Nursa, because that's just a cute nickname that it's gotten. The medical Ursa,
Yeah.
the Nursa is perfect.
Yeah.
It's just it works. And it's
a good
something I think I spitballed it on an Info Runners episode a couple of years ago, that I was like, that's, I think it was like the first or second Invictus a week. I was like, the medical Ursa is gotta be it, because like we don't have an ambulance that's a ground vehicle, and CIG is so focused on trying to include ground gameplay into the game that eventually you're gonna need some sort of medical tool, which is not, or medical like system that's not connected to a ship. And the other thing that's exciting about that is that it turns so many ships into medical ships, because you can put an Ursa on a lot of ships. You can put an Ursa on a Valkyrie. So now a Valkyrie has an emergency medical system on board, which is crazy. You
They've
know?
launched they're launching modularity right now.
Yeah, it's
it is.
basically what it is, but it also improves, like, because it's an Ursa, you can still drive around in it, so you can like convoy it up later, and it's an Ursa, like it just works. So, and as people are saying, you can put an Ursa and a C8R and a Carrack. So, it's a interesting kind of combination.
I feel like the MRSA on a Carrack like transforms that into a real fantastic battlefield tool. So, but yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Valkyrie as one of my favorite, kind of becoming my daily driver, essentially. Getting a MRSA there as well would be fantastic.
It's
Why is that your daily driver?
I mean, I've kind of just liked the bulkiness of it, right? It's something you can pull in, 2 to 4 friends, and they'll have turret spots available. You can easily fit like 2 rocks if you want to just go rock mining. It's not so large that you can't fit it anywhere, and I kind of like the look of it. I do that probably over the Cuddy Black, but just I like the feel of the ship. It handles pretty well. So
it handles well. It has VTOL, and we use it for lore expeditions because it's small. You can fit it in pretty much any outpost. So it's like compared to like a Carrack or like even a Cuddy Black, which is a little weaker. So, but yeah.
And if you're ever feeling particularly froggy, you can open up those side doors and just have the turret gun on the side. Like I've switched those out to energy weapons, and yeah, like that's a jump town killer. So
Would love to put the Mirai pulse gun on those doors. That'd
Oh
be
yeah.
cool. But did they fix the cargo problem with that ship? Because I thought it
Oh,
couldn't
step
fit
one,
a certain
choose
amount
it.
of
Speak
cargo.
well.
I thought that the cargo deck in there was kind of limited for some reason. At least years ago it was. Is that a problem you have now with it?
I actually don't. Most of the cargo I run, I'm doing on C2s. Just
Oh, okay.
the amount of volume I do, but yeah,
Never actually comes up then.
yeah, not at least how I'm using the ship. So
What other ships are coming? I honestly, I'm like drawing a blank. I know there's still that Mirai. Was it Mirai? Yeah, Mirai ship that looks like a large Fury that they showed us. I think
yeah,
that's like that, and the other ship that I mentioned are really the only ones we haven't gotten updates on anymore, I think, since November. You think they might show that at this Invictus?
I'm not sure if a Mirai would pull up during Invictus since it is kind of the fleet style, right?
Yeah.
Mirai is more the performance racing stuff. They usually skip out on a handful of those, but
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Now we've kind of talked a little bit about Invictus. We talked about some of the ships we were looking at, and ships we're interested in. Let's talk about Star Citizen's direction, because one of the things that I've kind of talked about before, and I still kind of something that it still haunts me, is that for the longest time, it's always felt like Star Citizen is moving in a direction where I think maybe not a lot of, but there's going to be a number of players who bought Star Citizen as an idea or for the potential of what it's going to be. And as a result, as the game becomes more of a thing, concrete, you can see it, you can play it, you know the direction they're going. A lot of people are going to find out that maybe it's not my game. Maybe it's not a game I want to. And that's I'm a little concerned about how many people would actually do that and how much that's going to happen. I hope it's not going to be too significant, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not a thing that will happen. So the question I have, the first one is Star Citizen still moving in the same direction as it's originally pitched in your experience? And I'll start with you on that one, Red Monster.
yeah, I think so. And when I got into it, it was more the concept of, hey, like we're building this immersive space sim. You're going to have ships that are the size of like Call of Duty maps that you can walk into. You can explore multiple interior levels. Like you have that level of immersion within the ship, and then you hop into the pilot seat and you fly that whole structure around. Like that for me has been fantastic. I still feel like we're never going to lose that aspect of it. There are specifics about the way that we interact with, and kind of the limitations on those the flight of the ships. But for me, that concept kind of trumped some of the other things. I can deal with gameplay changes and kind of work around those limitations. But I I was never bought in to say, okay, like I'm specifically buying because I like the way mining works today in 3.19 or however whenever it was. I'm not buying into the specific way the gameplay functions right now. I'm buying into more of the concept of, hey, like I'm gonna have a spaceship. I'm gonna have a group. We're gonna go out and interact with the universe in a way that we can make an impact, and that's I don't see that going away at all.
Space Mano, is Star Citizen still going in the same direction as it was originally pitched in your experience or in your opinion?
It's hard to say because it's so hard to know what the original kind of ideas were. There were so many. And I consider everything up until around 2016, 2017 to be like original, right? And things changed around that time. The way I view this game is kind of the way I view the ships in the game. Ignore the details, forget about the particulars, don't get caught up on what exactly it's supposed to be for. Go by the vibes. What makes you feel good? What is actually interesting to you? Can you jump into the game, and I'm super guilty of this. I mean, I guess because I cover the game a lot and just obsess about it. When you jump into the game and then you get into the nitty gritty details, a lot of times they get around to those details not in the way that you would expect, or maybe not the way that you would want. And master modes is kind of a good example. Like, they're getting to a dogfighting simulator that is fun, engaging, and easy to get into. And like, we've always wanted that, and they're finally getting around to it, but they're maybe not doing it in the way that like we really do want. Another example is like hover mode. That was something that they wanted to put into the game and sort of limit us in the way that we were moving at slow speeds. And eventually they realized they didn't want to do it that way. But when it came in, a lot of people were like, me included, were like, this is not great. Like, we don't really like this. And those sorts of little details can end up making it feel like they're not going in the direction that you thought they were. But at the end of the day, they're headed towards an open space game where you can live in space and do the things that you want and make money doing them. And like, considering that concept, yeah, they're still headed in that direction. They're headed very strongly in that direction, and I think they're doing a great job at it. But once you start diving down into the details, I think there are things that are changing. And I don't think they're changing necessarily out of choice, but more so necessity. They designed this game a long time ago. They're just now building the tools that allow it to happen. And the gaming industry itself has shifted a lot since they started. So
Yeah.
they kind of got to keep up, and that means some of the details change too.
Yeah, that happens with every game. There's lots of ideas. There's an old saying where there are more half-finished games or even completed games than there are games that have been released, because there are plenty of games that have gone through the process of being built, completed, and then you play it and you're like, this sucks. This is boring. Yeah. I always like to use Halo as an example, because the first Halo was originally going to be a top-down RTS. But then they liked the way that the little dudes were running around and talking, and the way that they were jumping and running around. They're like, oh, let's get a little closer. So they decided to change it to a third-person shooter, and then they changed that to a first-person shooter. And there's a lot of stuff that was like originally weird. Like Master Chief was much more of a cyborg. Like, even his voice was like super cyborgy, like some sort of robotic, and like there was a lot of things they had to kind of change as they evolved. But changing genres twice is a hell of a a hell of a change. So,
did you ever have the whether it's a privilege or a curse of playing Halo Halo Reach? What was they had a Halo top-down RTS that they released on Halo Wars. Okay. And that one, I feel like that game could have been better.
I loved it.
The community behind it sucked. The multiplayer, like, there was only ever, like, I think maybe there was 1,300 people playing.
Did you play the second one?
No,
because the second
one did a lot better.
It did a lot better, and it was on the computer. It wasn't a console exclusive. And I think that was what it was. Is that the first Halo Wars was a console exclusive, and that was bad for an RTS game.
It was rough.
But I think they did eventually port it to PC as well. But yeah, the second one's really good.
The second one killed it. I mean, the second one was so good they reused the villain in a mainline game.
Yeah, he became the main villain for Halo Infinite. So
nice.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it in Halo 6? That was.
No, it was Infinite. Yeah. No, he's not actually in that. It's like right hand man or whatever. Yeah, but the same idea, the Banished and
the Banisher.
Yeah, that's. It's cool to see how a game can evolve to become what it's meant to be.
Yeah,
but we don't ever get to see that.
Yeah, there's a Final Fantasy game. I think it was Final Fantasy 15 that originally started as a versus title. Like, there's so many games like that you see it start as one thing, and as it evolves, it changes, because what you think is good sucks, or what you think sucks is actually good, and you don't know that based off of just looking at an idea. You have to like implement it and play it and see how it works and stuff like that. So there's a lot of sculpting you have to do in the video game industry. It's a creative endeavor.
And I think that's what kind of bringing this back to Star Citizen. We're experiencing their alpha. We're seeing the game in a state that, they've got kind of the overall vision, and I think they're still maintaining that. Like, we're not changing genres of the game, but we're being able to see and experience the game in its early phases here, right? It's still the alpha, but
Mhm.
we're providing feedback on what gameplay we're enjoying, what things are working well. They're making changes, and we might not agree with them, or we might think that they're kind of detrimental to the vision of how we would interact with it. But um, we're getting that early look that we wouldn't see with another game.
Not always a fun look either.
No.
There's plenty of
Yeah.
disappointments for everybody along the way. Like, it's okay to be disappointed about decisions they make. That's why I like to say focus on the overall vision of the game and like what they're going for. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be gameplay decisions that just don't vibe with you.
Yeah. There's always games that have ideas that you just don't necessarily like, that you like the game of. There's no game I've ever played that I didn't have some question about why this exists in this game. And I'm sure a lot of it is developer resources and time, and sometimes it's just practical. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do this otherwise. So, let me see. I was going to say to continue with this sort of thought. 4.0. 4.0 is coming out soon. It's the next patch after 3.23. CIG has been screaming it from the rooftops since CitizenCon that they're going to release 4.0 in the summer, or just shooting for it. And then there's definitely, they've been every single monthly report, every single like dev comment that it's mentioned even around 4.0 it's like 4.0 is, it feels finally like CIG is just like we just need to drag this thing out and get it done, because even now CIG is starting to shift away from 4.0 discussion to 1.0.
Yeah.
So
like, it's getting old.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get this. Let's go.
I've been on this road.
So, Space Tomato, question. This is a big one, and it's a veiled when question.
Oh God.
But it's not really a veiled when question. It's more of a, do you believe that CIG is capable of releasing their version, their at least bare bones version of 4.0 before the end of the year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No
Okay.
wins. Oh, I guess that's already a win. You're right.
Yeah.
You got me.
It's a veiled
No,
when
yeah,
question.
I think they could release 4.0 by the end of the year.
Okay. And for those who don't know, I personally believe that the bare bones version of 4.0 is just pyro and server meshing, and that's it.
Yeah. Like, if they have to delay everything else, they'll do it. If they want to just get out server meshing by the end of the year, yeah, I mean, that gives us a 6-month period past what they thought it would be. That's a decent amount of cushion.
Yeah. Red Monster, same question. Do you think CIG is capable of releasing 4.0 before the end of the year?
Yeah, I think so. We've had the Pyro tech demos, the Pyro previews. They have the system there. We're seeing the behind the scenes tech that they've been iterating on, developing and putting it into our hands. I feel like, yeah, I'm very confident that they will be able to get it out. And the fact is, that whether or not it comes with all the polish that they're expecting, or if some of that gets pushed into like a 4.1, like, I definitely see them putting something out there, right? And I feel like it's going to meet the majority of our checklist for kind of the multi-system. We're seeing that now. At this point, yeah, they have everything they need to make it happen. I feel like.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm in the same boat. I think when it gets down to brass tacks, when we get to the fine details, I think CIG is dedicated to getting 4.0 done, so it's behind them, because they seem to be fixated on this 1.0 idea, and you can't get to 1.0 without going through 4.0. So, I do believe, yeah, and for those of you, because I see someone who's getting really spicy in the in the YouTube chat about it, because the thing that I think the biggest question that people had was, could you do server meshing and could it work in Star Citizen? That was answered twice now. They've done it twice. Once very publicly where everyone could get involved in it, with the entirety of Stanton being segmented into different servers. And the results were, for a first test version, was incredible about how much performance it improved, how many people they could get in. I think it was like 400 people for the shard or something like that. Like it doubled or tripled the amount of people in there. So I think that tech question's out of the way. The issue is not can they do it, it's when will they do it. And I think given the time they have had and the time they still have at the end of the year, 6-7 months? Yeah, almost certainly they can get that done in 6-7 months. So
I think the fact that we've had basically Evocati tests in this tech already is a pretty good sign that they're making good progress on it. I mean, we've up until November of last year, we never saw server meshing work. Up until, I don't know, March of this year, we never saw it in any other person's hands but the people at CIG. So they're making progress. It's clearly breaking precedent from every other time they've said we're on the road to 4.0. Now they're showing people, not even showing, people are playing in it.
Mm-hmm. You could stream it. People were streaming the playtest like you could. It was average citizens could get access to it. I think it got up to like wave 3 before they shut it down or something like
that. The amount of effort and technical development that needed to happen to get to the point where it could get into the player's hands and they could even try it, right? Mm-hmm. That tells me that they are far enough down that pathway that their timeline of release 4.0, by the end of the year it's going to happen, right?
Yeah. 4.0 comes out before 1.0. CIG doesn't just suck at naming things; they're also bad at math. Technically, it's Alpha 4.0. They want to get Alpha 4.0 before they can get 1.0 out. I've said for many times they just need to give random names for their patches. They should just drop the number system. Just call this the Bob patch, the Mitch patch, the Susan patch.
I can't wait. I can't wait for patches to be themed.
Yeah. I think there's your idea for post 1.0 releases, CIG. Just whatever the theme is, just drop that in there. Like, because right now we already have the cute little marketing nicknames, like the Adventure Begins or whatever is the next one.
The Adventure Beckons. That one got me.
Yeah.
As a Critical Role fan, the Adventure Begins has specific meanings for me.
Yeah. The Adventure
But-
Beckons. Adventure Beckons is just that should be the patch instead of patch 323. It's just patch Adventure Beckons.
Okay,
The
but like
Ember
what
Turkey patch?
what adventure though? Like the mission that I was already doing in the new location.
Yes, that's adventure. That doesn't matter. They're just arbitrary names,
Yeah, I know. It's just funny the way that they do the names for certain patches, because I feel like Adventure Beckons could have been even better for like 318, since that one we were going out into space and salvaging for the first time. But whatever. It's just they're just names.
And someone brought it up in chat as well, and I think we talked about this, and I talked about this in the Space Tomato stream because I saw that as well. Which I think is a good point, and I'll want y'all's thoughts on it, but I'll give you mine, which is there was an interview at BCon, which is going on right now, where Chris Roberts said that dynamic meshing might be coming out at the end of this year. And before getting everyone's hopes up, I don't think Chris Roberts is saying the full final dynamic meshing is coming out, because if you've been following... Yeah, that would be nuts. If you've been following how CIG's been talking about meshing, as they've gotten closer to meshing, they've started to break it up into different things, which is something CIG does a lot. Well, like, they'll have this idea, like bounty hunting. And I'm sure when we get to the actual bounty hunting release, it'll be like bounty hunting version 1, bounty hunting version 2. They'll like kind of break it up into like where they can drop the tech where they need to. Kind of like how salvage is an early version of salvage right now, and they're going to be kind of going further beyond. And so, but dynamic meshing 1 is effectively what we have with static meshing, but they just turn the servers off when no one's there. That's it. It's just turning the servers on and off when people get nearby. So it's a kind of it's a light switch, an automatic light switch for the servers, which will save them money long term. It may have some other benefits to the gameplay, but I think it's mostly just saving money. So what do you think? Do you think do you think CIG is you think Chris Roberts is doing his Chris Robertsisms and just saying things again that he shouldn't? Or
Yes.
do you think he's right that we're going to see, we might see dynamic for the end of it? Yes. You just think it's Chris.
I mean, it might happen, but don't say it. Don't say it.
They've got a history of setting expectations and missing them, and that's the risk. But maybe Chris has learned in the decade of this process. But
He's literally told us he's learned before and then done the same
Then
thing.
done the same
right
thing.
after. Yeah.
So
He loves it. He's excited.
To the credit, Jared rarely does it, and Jared just straight up said 4.0 is shooting for a summer release in like December. Is when he said that. It was like, that's a bold statement, Jared, and it's severely bold.
I feel like some of the criticism for CIG is like their project management, has struggled in the past, and they've kind of gone through multiple iterations of, it's going to be a quarterly patch, it's going to be a major feature patch, like these, kind of meeting the cadence they're setting for themselves, and potentially their internal project management is at that point now where they're better aligned to hit things. Obviously there are some specific like technical aspects for each patch that have to be ironed out, and those are kind of the main blockers. But I feel like at this point they should have a really good understanding of what needs to be delivered, and at least seeing those requirements and seeing that fall into place on the expected timeline.
Okay.
I do like that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, I do like that it sounds like they're working on kind of a long-term roadmap, not really a roadmap, but a progress tracker, which is kind of what we got with the 3.0 branch. They gave us something that was supposed to sort of carry us to the end of all those major tasks. I'm pretty sure at this point we've seen almost every major task that they set out at that point now done. So I'm glad that they're setting up another set to drive to release, and know that, okay, you've got time to go. We don't know how long it's going to take, but you're showing us kind of the ideas of what you want to be there. And that helps us get a better picture of the cadence, like Red Monster was saying.
Mm-hmm. I will. I've got three things because before we move into the question and answer session, this one because someone brought it up in chat, which I think is a good statement because it's something that you hear a lot, where we'll sit here and talk about server meshing and more players and new content, and one of the most common responses I've had is, do AI still stand on chairs? Do I still fall through the planet? And why do you care? Why do I care? Why should I give a shit about server meshing when I still fall through the planet? So do you think that's a legitimate discussion? Like, or like CIG should be focusing, like why are we focusing on all these big lofty ideas when you still have a reload bug, or you still have you quantum through the planet and kill yourself? I'll start with you on that one, Red Monster.
So, like, let's say you buy a brand new car and one of the valve stem covers doesn't fit properly. Do you throw the car away? Like, there are intricate pieces of this entire system. Like, falling through the floor is a small piece of that. It's not a critical path item necessarily. Like, yes, it impacts your gameplay, but you can look at that and say, okay, well, like, there's one hangar that has this problem. We're not going to throw the whole system away, right? There are going to be those things that require a little bit of polish, right? But yeah, I kind of back to the original question, does that make me worried about the future of Star Citizen, them not being able to hit their goals because people fall through the floors? No. I feel like we're getting a system that's still being in development, and you're going to have those pieces that are lacking polish but are not critical path items.
Okay. Space Tomato. Why should people care about all these different things when they can still fall through floors? Does that matter?
Well, I think they should. I don't think that one negates the other. It's completely reasonable to be angry about those. Like the glitches in this game can be really freaking annoying. Sometimes I just don't want to play. I don't play that much until more recently. I mostly do talking about the game, so I get that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you shouldn't care about the lofty things. I mean, server meshing likely will, if not fix a lot of the problems that make you fall through the floor, allow the devs to focus on the problems that do. These lofty issues are the things that stop the devs from ultimately solidifying the game, because whether there are like knock-on problems that come from these systems that could cause those things that they need to solve, like for instance persistent entity streaming, that enabled a ton of things to actually work correctly. Salvage wouldn't have been possible without that. The cargo stuff wouldn't be possible about that. Now we're looking at the progress that's going into server meshing, and suddenly that gives us server crash recovery. That's stopping you from one of the most annoying problems in this whole game. Is like you could just server crashes and you lose all your progress. So there's like little benefits that you get from these big systems being redone that I think are still worth knowing about. But ultimately, this isn't a game that's like it's not in a good place for a lot of people to play. And if you don't want to fall through planets, I would just say don't play for now, until that is something they can get around to fixing, because they're always in a method. They're always in triage mode. You know, at some point they might get around to it, but there could be other things that they just have to do first.
Yeah, I mean, we're all familiar with the vast array of workarounds for things that lack polish right now, but the core technologies, the parts that are enabling that further expansion of the universe and the way we interact with it, those are all being worked on, right? And that's where the focus is. You know, I see the YouTube comments saying like, yeah, if something's broken with your car, you take it in to get repaired. Yeah, like, but if they're still like improving on the drivetrain, you know, they're not going to work on some of the smaller things. You know, it's a matter of putting the juice, you know, putting the squeeze where they can get the most juice out of.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question because I think it's a thing I get a lot, and I agree in general. I mean, the thing that I think a lot of people mistake as problems are actually part of the growing pains of a game. Because when you're looking at something like Star Citizen has a lot of placeholder items. And when you have a placeholder item, the question is, let's say NPC standing on chairs. CIG has supposedly fixed that problem like 7 times. Like every patch since 2.0 has had a fix for that problem. And eventually, they always come back to standing on the chairs. It's like a biological need for the NPCs to stand on those fucking chairs. And according to CIG, it's a different problem every time. It's a completely different symptom every single time they do it. And sometimes it's the old symptom that came back somehow. And that's not unique. There's lots of problems like that happen because of various different, placeholders versus final products. And the best way to get some of those problems fixed is to get the final products in. And that's what we're seeing with, like, say, 3.23. A lot of the UI update, this is not the final version, but it's the base version that the technology is in now with all of them on, like, building blocks. They can iterate on it faster, but that framework is in. So if there's a bug with the map, they can fix it faster now than it would have been with the old map, which is why they didn't even bother fixing a lot of those bugs with the maps. Falling through a planet, it happens, but it may be a number of different things. But until they can get all the other services in a better state, it may not make a lot of sense to try to go through and fix something that can happen once every 1,000, 100 million times. That, it's not worth the effort to put in there. Because CIG wants to make the game, which is going to take time, but they can't make the game if they're running around trying to fix every bug and then making a new patch, which is going to break more things and then cause more problems. They have to kind of keep that up there. So
imagine. Go ahead.
There's a time period to go for the large core technology developing those structures. That's what they're doing right now. And then as those are in place and they're working as they expect, they're getting the results they want out of it. That's when they go through and they address polish and they find those niche cases where, falling through the floor or T-posing on chairs. Like, those have symptoms that are going to be addressed either through better performance on the core systems that they're iterating on right now, or there might be edge cases that they aren't aware of that are going to change so many times as they iterate on the core systems that it doesn't make sense to go address the real root cause of it right now unless it is significantly like a game breaking issue that that you're not able to get out of your hab, that type of thing. That would be one of the features that would just kill gameplay for everyone. That's why that bug might get prioritized.
You gonna say something, Tomato?
Imagine if they had just fixed all the bugs in the star map instead of working only on this new one. How much later would we get the new star map, or how much would that delay the star map in Squadron?
Yeah.
Then imagine if they'd done that with the interaction system, with I don't know, other things that have been. Now I'm drawing a blank on what else is being replaced, but like there's a lot of things they're replacing now that are
the AI system's got entirely
out.
overhauled. The like how AI walks on planets is getting entirely overhauled. So, like I'm sorry, I just throwing some stuff in there. Yeah.
No, but that's I think that's the interesting bit is knowing, or at least I wonder how they figure what is it that they want to wait on a system to replace, and what is it that they want to fix now? Because then you look at something like soft death being a very halfway implementation of something we know won't be in the game the whole time, but it's like they need this before Maelstrom is ready. Why not just keep it the same way it was until Maelstrom was ready? Well, because they need the cargo stuff to work out. So there's like the cargo stuff's completely unrelated to the way that a ship explodes, but it also is part of the reason that they came up with this halfway point to fix what people might perceive as being not the way the game should work or a glitch. So they always have to go through this whole process, I guess, of figuring out what is and what is not worth exchanging. And a lot of times, I'm sure part of that equation is like, how much longer is this going to push off the system we want to replace it with anyways?
Yeah. It's a balancing act, and I don't envy CIG for having to make that decision, because they're going to have to make they make these decisions, and sometimes they make the wrong decisions. And like, do we just ignore the problems of the system and just barely maintain it so it doesn't break everything, and focus on this new thing, which we are sure is going to come out in the next soon, whatever that is.
5 years.
Yeah.
And
or
good. They have to have believed this was going to happen, like releasing a playable alpha like this, right? They understand this is going to happen. We see early access games and people are going to complain about it because it's still in development, right? And that's, armchair developers want to say, oh, like this is a bigger priority than you guys are making it. Yeah, like if the feedback is there, if there's enough people, maybe it does get the priority, but they have to set that priority based on the game they're trying to deliver. And we get a playable alpha, which is kind of, we get that inside look, but not the full scope of it.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to ask it, because I think that kind of ties into this whole like expectations and like the direction that Star Citizen is going. Because I also think that plays into a lot of people get used to the old stuff, and when new stuff comes out, it might fix some problems, but it also moves away from what they're used to. And so like it's a matter, it's another one of those catch-22s where like you can use a new system which fixes a lot of the problems that the old system had, but then you alienate people who liked the old system. See, master modes, So without all that heavy stuff out, let's talk a little bit more about some pie in the sky stuff, which is 1.0. What is 1.0 to you? Because it's such a weird idea. There was a question on the Space Tomatoes podcast that was asked that we never really kind of tackled, where someone was like, what's going on with the progress tracker? Why hasn't the progress tracker been updated? And I feel like I can sense Jake's frustration even as I say this. Drake is currently shaking with anger as I say that, because Jake has said
they're looking over the podcast, shaking fists.
Yes. Jake is probably like at like a supermarket right now getting food, and it's like, the like they can just feel the disturbance in the force.
He's got the special pager with the Captain America logo on it.
Yeah.
It's just the RSI logo.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, my spidey senses are tingling, you know.
A million voices just cried out for a progress tracker. And then was silenced.
For those of you who don't know, the reason why the progress tracker is not been updated is because CIG is effectively pausing the progress tracker until they have an idea of what they want to get with 1.0. So as I think Space Tomato alluded to, the current progress tracker is to 4.0. It's everything. It's the 3.0 tracker, and the new tracker they want to put in is a tracker from 4.0 to 1.0, and they don't want to update the progress tracker until they have that roadmap laid out of what they want to what they want to have in between 4.0 and 1.0, which then begs the question: what's in 1.0? Because if there's a roadmap, it means that there's stuff that's not going to make it for 1.0. There's stuff that's not going to be in the game that people want. That's going to have to come in a post release. So what do you think? Just pie in the sky. Go nuts, because none of us know anything. Red Monster first. Under the bus. Both axles.
Yeah. Oh man. Right on the spot there. No. First off, I don't envy Rich Tyrer for his job and deciding what, he's kind of the gatekeeper of getting us to 1.0, deciding what's going to get in there, right? But yeah, I think we need probably like a dozen star systems. Obviously, all the tech behind the support there. It's yeah. For me, we need a stabilized flight model that's going to persist unchanging into the future. We need to make sure, I think base building and kind of the persistence there. That's it's hard to say like what I would want from a 1.0 versus what could be delivered, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be gameplay to engage the various interests, right? We've got mining, we've got salvage, we've got racing, we've got bounty hunting. I think those all need to be in a polished state, and it needs to be where organizations can go and have an impact, right? And we talked about the quanta simulation and the economy. Those all need to be rolled in, and we've seen very limited glimpses of them, but yeah. At least kind of the high level, if they can get a couple of gameplay loops to the level that maybe mining was at, I feel like that was probably kind of the gold standard of industrial, but they've got to get the other, cargo and that type of thing up to that state.
What do you think, Space Tomato?
All right.
You want me to go before you?
Lofty.
Before
no.
you?
It might be a little lofty, but
Okay.
I think that for starters, every profession in the game that you can play as a sandbox profession should have enough missions to catch people up to how it works. There should be mission givers involved, so no matter what kind of gameplay you're doing, there should be some sort of vocal narration missions with some narrative, so you're not just running the same things over and over. Base building, I think, should be pretty far along by 1.0, to the point where basically anybody has a reason at least to have a base, and we have a good understanding of the different systems they can be in. Crafting should be pretty far along too. Reputation should be very, very far along, in my opinion. That should be one of the main focuses of the game by the time 1.0 is coming out. And I'm thinking at least 5 systems. Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Odin, I guess maybe Vega, but I would honestly say Terra should be there for 1.0 as the starting location for newcomers. And then I honestly, I cannot say that every ship should be in gold standard, because I don't think that would happen in the next few years. I think no, that's not true, because every ship that they release after, I would say, Maelstrom is in the game probably won't be too difficult to update for whatever gold standard is. Like, they're getting pretty far along when it comes to the lighting effects, sound effects, and different things that they have in each ship. I won't say they all need to be in gold standard, but every ship should be pretty much up to date with like the big systems.
Mhm.
But I think the main thing, honestly, is there needs to be sense of progression, both in the missions and the contracts you can take, and the reputation that you're getting. Oh, and the law system needs to be figured out. Holy crap!
Oh, I hate the law system.
Yeah.
I hate the current system. The current system
The
sucks.
law system and reputation are going to be absolutely critical. They need to be in, and folks that are out there being full-time pirates, like they need to be excluded from areas, right? The high security, like that's absolutely part of the game, and building that reputation.
I will say, going off the bat right away, I hate that CIG is calling this 1.0 because it's not 1.0. It's a beta release. It's a soft launch, but
Do you think they will? Do you think they're going to go straight to that and not do any sort of beta phase leading up to it?
Nope.
You think it's literally their beta?
It's their beta. I think it's their beta. They're just calling it 1.0 for some reason. I guess it's
marketing reasons.
Well, back
very easy.
Yeah,
I think.
Well back in the day, back in like I want to say 2015, 2014, I remember it being a big deal that the project manager at the time, or project leader at the time, which was for Star Citizen, which was Eric Peterson, the wingman, he said like their current plan for what he said was beta was a minimal viable product, something they brought up around MVP. They brought up a lot of MVP. And the idea that they talked about was 5 systems, which is why that number comes up a lot in Star Citizen discussions, is because that's where it originated. They said 5 systems and all of the background stuff functioning. And it seems like that idea has stuck for all of these years. It's still the idea. It's still the plan. But it's beta. I hate it. It's called 1.0. But I do think it's going to be. I do think it's going to be like all of the professions have loops, reputation systems in, a lot of the background. There's got to be some polish to it. It's got to have at least a little bit of bug fixing and those sorts of things. But I don't think we're going to have a bug-free experience 1.0. It is going to be very buggy. I don't think it'll be as buggy as we experience now because we are kind of helping to fix a lot of those problems. But there will be systems that they add in right when 1.0 hits, which will break, and they'll have to fix them.
They can't freaking. They better tighten it up before 1.0 and then let us have at least one patch of goodness. Because if Star Citizen like that, that's the problem.
That's why I'm afraid of them. That's why I don't like them calling it 1.0 because I'm like it's gonna have bugs. It's gonna because they're skipping the beta.
It'll always have bugs, but like calling it beta. Yeah, I don't know. It's semantics, really.
Maybe going from the alpha to the beta, like the 1.0 becomes where right now, whatever percentage, maybe it's like 10% of their time is spent squashing bugs and kind of dealing with the polish. They go to like a 30% of, applying polish, getting that so that we get systems that, you're not going to fall through the planet when you try and land. You're not going to, stumble all over yourself when you come out of EVA, like those type of things that, maybe that's where the transition, they're no longer trying to actively develop core systems. There's a lot of those effort that going into the polish phase, right?
Yeah. I mean, like right now, CIG is mentioning in Squadron 42 that polish phase is a step between alpha and beta, and they're going into the beta. There's actually mentioned in Squadron 42 monthly reports of them moving to a beta state for...
So they're trying to Fortnite beta it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Like they're just like it's released.
It's released. It's what it is. And I would have and someone asked like, what's the difference between an open beta and release? The answer, it's semantics. And as much as semantics doesn't matter, it does, because the way you call your game will be to how people treat it. If CIG said this is beta 1.0, there would still be people going, oh, it took you 17 years to get to beta. This game's never going to be done. But they'll also understand that there's still bugs, and they're going to be working on polishing and increasing the amount of content and, getting it up to speed where they want it to be. like that's a little bit more forgiving than saying it's a released game. You have 5 systems and there's still major problems when you're releasing with it. You don't have that alpha excuse anymore. You went from alpha to release. You brought this upon yourself. Like, people are going to treat you differently once that happens. And I think that's the mistake of they're gonna, so. And
it's too late now. It's out of the bag.
Yeah, they opened their mouth and they said it. And I was just like, ooh, I know what this is and I don't like it. But I do think that there will be ships that won't make it into there, like the Endeavor. Yeah. The Endeavor's not coming out in 1.0.
Yeah.
I think most of the profession ships will, like the Endeavor, what is it? The
Orion,
the
Crucible.
Yeah, the Crucible, the Expanse, the Orion. Everyone forgets about the Expanse because it's a bad name.
It's a pretty small ship. It's always surprising to me how small it is.
See, it's about the same size as a Freelancer. I think it's maybe a little bit bigger, but
that's actually something I didn't mention. All the levels of gameplay.
Yeah,
we don't even know what large scale mining is going to be yet.
Yeah,
right.
That'll be very interesting, at least. As I figured, a nice little crazy. What is CIG doing behind the scenes when they say 1.0? Because we're definitely going to be hearing more about 1.0 at CitizenCon. That seems to be their big discussion is what's going on. So, with that, let's end up with a kind of a more kind of affirmation, I guess you could say, or a more positive. Are you looking forward to the rest of this year, Space Tomato?
Yeah, absolutely. We get to get persistent hangers. That's how they got me. They delayed it, so now I have to look forward to more.
I have to look forward to it. Red Monster.
No, well, let me finish, Paul.
Okay.
No, I'm just really excited to see what they do with the second half of the year. There's a lot of opportunity. I hope that 4.0 comes, but even if it doesn't come, whatever comes in the later 3.23 patches, it sounds like the people who are there are working on good stuff. That being said, they might only be working on stuff that can work with server meshing, so that might suck. But I am excited to see what they do with the position that they've put themselves in now.
Okay. Red Monster.
Based on what we saw last year at CitizenCon, the amount of features that they've already brought into the persistent universe, and we see the pace of development, I feel like, the rest of the year is going to be really exciting as far as what they're delivering. 3.23, we lost some of the features. It felt like it was gutted, but I still feel like we got so many more quality of life. It's going to feel and interact as a very different game than it was just a couple of weeks ago, right? With the release that we've got now, with the additional features that they're bringing in. I've talked about this before, all of the developer resources that were on Squadron, those being moved over now into the persistent universe, I think the pace of development is going to be so much quicker for the persistent universe. And we've had a year and a half, 2 years before this of, pretty lackluster updates because all of the focus was on Squadron that was behind the curtain, kind of sequestered. Now we're going to see that come in, and we're going to see 4.0. We're going to see, we've got some of the capital ships coming in, potentially like base building, and definitely the persistent hangars, those features that are going to be really impactful. So,
I'm looking forward to it because the same way I look forward to like a bonfire. A bonfire is a fun time where everyone gets together, but you're staring at a giant flaming pyre. You're gonna have fun, and other things are gonna happen, but that fire is dead center in your view. And I think Star Citizen is going to be a bonfire in terms of things the rest of this year. But it's a needed fire. It's something. It's a controlled burn, as it were, because I don't think 4.0 is going to do it could be great in terms of performance, but it's needed for all the tech that it comes in, and I think that 3.23 it exceeded my expectations in terms of performance so far. So if it keeps it up over the next couple of weeks with them doing little small patches to fix it up, I think I'm a little bit more excited for 4.0, but overall, I'm excited for the rest of this year just because it'll be nice to see it evolve, to see where CIG is going with it. I think it's going to be bumpy, but it's going to be a wild ride, and no matter which way you're looking at it. So,
Yeah.
And the kind of the features here with 323 as well. The main thing though is the stability coming in. If you look at the 318 release, that was a giant raging dumpster fire.
Oh, that was awful.
And I had an unmitigated disaster that I think turned a lot of players off.
Mm-hmm.
I've had players, like personal friends of mine, that completely turned off the game, haven't logged in since. They were playing last night and actually really excited about it, and it was stable, right? The work they've done there, I think going in, at least for the next year, we're not going to see another 318 moment. I think things are going to be a lot more stable moving forward, and potentially improving a lot. So
yeah, I do hope. I know that like people like morphologists have talked about how CIG kind of needs to start increasing their standards, and I do think that they are. Because the one thing that we all got to remember is that CIG is also trying to release Squadron 42 before they reach a 1.0 status for Star Citizen. So if they're going to release a Squadron 42 before then, that's going to have there's standards for that one. It's a released game that they're going to be judged on as a standard of a released game. So if that's something they're pushing for, they already have that sort of mindset of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. I'm looking forward to them moving beyond the technology hurdles that they have, so that when you have developers like DJ or Elliot or Zach or Yogi, who are passionate about what they do and are no longer limited by the technology telling them what they can and can't do, just to see them go, to see what they do, see what they can come up with, and see them experiment and quickly iterate, like we've seen like Bone and his team have been doing with the HUD stuff. Excited to see some of that stuff. So
There's also, it's actually a really exciting time. It's hard to remember because there's so much going on, but it's an incredibly exciting time to look at the development. Just this year alone, we're seeing a new star map, ship modularity, an actual rework to cargo, persistent hangars for the first time, like an actual home in the game. They're doing a what else? Engineering is coming in. Like these are really, really big systems that are changing that we've been wanting for a while, and they're all kind of lining up in the same year. And I mean, that's just off the top of my head. There's a lot more. So even if it's not like you can't get excited for 4.0 or something, just looking at the separate parts that are being developed, it's significant stuff. And whether it's good or bad, it denotes, I think, that this year is going to be a big change or a big defining year for CIG regardless.
Yeah,
and
I agree. Yeah. Refreshing. You're good now.
Question for you guys here. What's the one feature you feel like is going to be the most impactful going forward that we haven't that's still yet to be there? Like,
Reputation.
For me, I know the Maelstrom system, with its potential for like salvage and mining, but also just ship destruction, right?
Mm-hmm. For me, it's
are there
reputation.
other features like that? Yeah,
reputation. Because like I'm a lore guy. I'm a story guy. I'm one of those. I'm a zealot when it comes to the reason why people stick with games is not because of mechanics. It's because of something that draws them in beyond the mechanics. The mechanics build something else, and the easiest thing you can build with mechanics is story. I like Halo's fun. I enjoy Halo, and I enjoy Halo multiplayer. But that universe has my brain and does not want to let go of it because I got invested in it because of the stories. And sometimes it hurts me. Sometimes it hurts me a lot because of how badly they're treating their storytelling in Halo. But it still hasn't let me go since I was, a teenager. And there are games like Warcraft does the same thing. It's just so many people who will play WoW because they played Warcraft when, they were younger in the 90s, or Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3, and it still sort of gathers them and pulls them in because of the storytelling going on. And I mean, you can even do games like freaking Soulsborne games, like Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls isn't known to having a deep integrated narrative, but people love the storytelling and like the visual storytelling and the environmental storytelling of it, and will come back to it. And I think that's really where it's important for CIGs to nail that sort of experience, to have people connected to the universe, and that's reputation. That's what it is. That's the thing that's most exciting me. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I think reputation has. I mean, that's where I want to see reputation go. I think they still haven't really proved the system all that much, and we're only just starting to see it come back in after a couple of years of no development. But that reputation is what's supposed to be that's the current, right? If we're all a bunch of high voltage batteries, the reputation's the current that actually gets us going. Like that, that should, in theory, be the reason that I want to move to another star system to start some work, or the reason I take a mission that moves me to another star system. It's not necessarily because, oh, I like this star system, it's so dangerous. Like, yeah, that'll get you at some points, especially for sandbox players. But the game itself should also push me to want to move around and do things, and I think reputation's a big part of that too.
I want the moments like and it's something that I've always come back to, is a moment where you get a job to go to a system and do a job, and you get to the system, you start doing the job, and then you realize about halfway through the job that you have a warrant for your arrest in that system, or someone doesn't like you in that system, someone really hates you, and you're like, oh, I am screwed. Like the moment of like, my actions have consequences, and here are the consequences to my face. I need to figure, because that's engaging storytelling and something, causing you to change and those sorts of things. Because, how many of us are going to be able to keep tabs on all of our reputations and who we work for, who didn't, and who's the enemy of who. And so those little neat moments, I think, are cool parts to it.
Your mission to transport goods takes you through a system where maybe something you're hauling is not exactly above board.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know that? Do you get surprised by it?
Maybe you get stopped by police and you just don't realize that those police are actually corrupt cops that are there to shake you down a little bit, and now you've got, and now you've developed a personal animosity to anything that is Hurston, kind of thing. Just like I could have made $1 million and you stopped me and stole all my cargo and I can't do anything about it, So, all right, we've been talking for a very long time, which is good. I think this is a good conversation to have. We're going to take a break for a few minutes and then use the restroom, get something to drink, and we'll be back to answer your questions live. But as always, make sure you're checking out Red Monster SC's Twitch and YouTube, Space Tomatoes Twitch and YouTube. And if you enjoyed this so far and you're watching this after the fact, make sure that or if you watch this live, make sure you follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. And if you're watching this after the fact, check us out live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come on and watch and ask your own questions here. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. What's up?
Oh, that's a Space Tominato.
Tominato. Did I? Oh, this entire time. I'm not changing.
Tominato, actually.
Tominato. That's it. It's staying like that from now on.
Tominato or Tominato?
It's canon.
And we're back for the question and answer session with Space Tomato and Space Tomato and Red Monster. I'm not changing it. That's the funniest misspelling I've ever done, and it works.
It just hides right there in the middle too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I didn't notice it for like 40 minutes.
All right, so we've got a couple questions here. We've got about 11 questions, which is not bad. I'm going to pause it here after the first couple of minutes because I know sometimes we can get into questions and then that can cause more questions to arise and you can get this infinite loop of questions going. And the Red Monster, Space Tomato, and myself are all very eloquent, I would like to say. We love to talk because we're all content creators in that sort of vein. And we will talk forever. And Space Tomato needs to sleep because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning there for him already. So
1 a.m. 1 a.m.
1 a.m. All right. So this first one's actually a good one. And I'll start with you on this one, Red Monster. Will CIG let people buy the tally modules in-game right away, or will they have to wait?
In-game, probably no, right?
Okay.
They've got the history that people who pledge real money for it usually get at least one patch exclusivity for those. I can see them going up on the pledge store pretty quickly. But yeah, I think it will be at least one patch cycle before you're able to buy them with in-game credits.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think the rule is 6 months. So if CIG puts anything on the releases something in the game for cash, I think the rule is 6 months from its release. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
because we're getting things from 3/22 now, right?
Yeah, stuff that was released back in November. So
yeah.
That's not a question, Jin, but I'll kind of discuss it. Neutral ground is a meme/trope found in a lot of fiction where places where factions that don't like each other are sworn to not be in conflict, some place where they can meet and talk and do business. I don't think that's what they mean with neutral ground for the NPCs, though. I think that's more of a place where players can go, no matter their even with bad reputation, where they won't necessarily get attacked on sight. But the way that they talked about it is that if you have bad reputation with a group, but that group runs an area that's neutral ground, if you slip up and you shoot something wrong or you do something else, like they immediately turn on you. There is no grace period. They just turn instantly on you. I think that was the way. It's basically trying to like a less harsh way of being like, you can still go here, but everyone's watching you. And if you screw up, you're dead. That's not necessarily, that's not exactly neutral ground, because neutral ground trope is more like, Highlander, you can't fight on holy ground, or, what was it, the Continental in John Wick, Yeah, everyone agrees you don't go here and fight. This isn't like we can't spill blood here. This is like I'm watching you, and if you screw up, I'm taking you out sort of situation.
Yeah, you're allowed to be here on good behavior.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's neutral. It's neutral ground in the sense of the faction that runs it, rather than the factions, like all factions around them. So I think that's the way they described it as. We've been complaining for years and years for releasing something too soon. Are we now going to bitch when we're told something that's held back, that's not ready? Sure, it feels bad, but what they're doing is what we're asking for, and exactly what they said they were going to do. In terms of like the content that was held back, I think we all kind of talked about it. It's like we understand why it was held back, and we're glad that it was held back, but it still sucks.
That doesn't mean it's not like a gut punch, right?
Yeah. It's like, oh, that sucks. It's like, you want to go out and play, a game, like baseball or soccer or football. You get psyched up, and your friends are going to go out and play, and you're going to like play against another team from a local region, just for like an afternoon, like family and friends, or maybe you're raising money for charity, and the day comes and it rains, and you can't do it. It's like, doesn't mean you're not going to do it again, but it sucks that it had to rain and you have to delay it. That's what it feels like. It's like, fuck.
Yeah. It like we get why they're doing it. We prefer they do it this way. I'm still going to complain about it a little bit. It sucks.
Yeah. I'm still going to cry a little bit, but Yeah.
I think it's important to show people your disappointment there as well. Like, yeah, it was a
Mhm.
feature we were excited about. You know, you've got to at least accept it and move on, but
Mhm.
not without a little bit of griping, because man, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
And
next question.
it'll be in game in 2 months, and we'll be like, who cares that we didn't have
Yeah,
it before?
we won't even remember like that it was delayed, but I might remember it because I have that kind of brain that soaks up useless information and just keeps it there forever. But most people will be like, "Well, right, that did happen," you know. Or you could go out and buy a telescope, get it hooked up with your camera, and record the eclipse, and it's a freaking cloudy day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
Or
know that
the aurora is supposed to be visible from your location for the first time in like forever, and you go out and it's overcast.
it's overcast. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Just not like it was a recent example or anything.
Yeah, no. Unknown Guardian asks, if CIG, as Tomato mentioned, add the filter overlay thingy for the star map, do you think there will be a global, meaning all systems, or just UEE systems? And outside UEE space, you have to rely on talking to NPCs and other players that have traveled the route if you want to determine if there's any threats along the way, like pirates. That's a good question. I do think that there should be some generic information, but I do agree that there should be some information that's kind of missing. Because for those of you who don't know, a lot of this information is tracked by a third party in the universe called the ARC Foundation, or just the ARC. The ARC is the thing that does the star map, the Galactopedia. It's like a non-government organization that does a lot of these different aspects. So, like, their analysis might be spotty because they don't know what's going on in Pyro. Yeah. So,
what does exploration gameplay turn into if you already know the entire map? Exactly. Right. If you already know every point of interest, you know the high security, low security, which trade routes are dangerous. Like, that's where exploration gameplay is going to be there. And yeah, there's going to be permanent fixtures. There's going to be temporary events, things that you can share information on. And I feel like that would make exploration and data running critical gameplay features.
Yeah.
So sounds like a conversation we've had recently, Red.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to plug said conversation? Is this?
Oh, no. It's just, if you know.
All right. Next question comes from Unknown Guardian, who asks, what ships do you think will come out over the next sales after Invictus? Alien Week, IAE, next year's Invictus. I mean, the Zeus. The Zeus is easy. The easy ones are Zeus, Polaris, and obviously the Legionnaire. And I really hope the Apollo, but you know, I feel like I've been burned too many times with that. What else? Is there any other ships you can think of?
The big Mirai ship.
Oh yeah, the Fat Fury. Yeah,
and then the other ship that we just don't know anything about.
Yeah, the one that kind of looks like a triangle. The kind of has the
yeah. Also, the G12.
Yes.
Where the heck is that?
And the Ranger.
And the Ranger. Well,
right.
I don't know if the Rangers can come out this year. That. I'd love to see it.
Man, they still got to get their four-wheeled physics down.
Yeah. The Odyssey? No, I don't think we're seeing the Odyssey anytime soon.
Nope.
I think we'll probably also see a lot of modularity introduced. Like the Galaxy, I think probably within the next year and a half, if the Polaris is out by the end of this year. And if the Galaxy's coming out, then base building should be, in some way, shape, or form for next year, plus probably refining in some case. But again,
I was going to ask about that refining. Do you think they try to fit the expanse in? Because we've got a refuel and pyro, which means they need to upgrade the refuel system. Could they possibly aim for some refining stuff too?
I think it's possible, but I think the problem is more. This is going to sound awful, but what needs to get done with 4.0 is server meshing and pyro. Everything else is optional, and it's one of those things.
Okay.
I think that's one of those things where I could see CIG taking a look at it and being like, not enough time, not enough effort. Just
I get that with refining.
Yeah,
but dear Lord, the refueling system better be in a better place for 4.0.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
because they dropped that in 2 years ago, and they told us, "Hey, y'all can't put out beacons. You're just gonna have to kind of call out in the global chat and good luck, and we'll fix this soon." And they were like, "We're doing this for pyro because pyro is where you need to refuel. Pyro's coming out."
Yeah. It's like why the Liberator is that? Oh, we want the
There's-
Liberator because we need pyro.
There's no freaking way I'm gonna go into pyro and put in global chat that I need somebody to come refuel me.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. I would like to get mugged very badly out here.
Yeah.
I am
People are gonna think
defenseless.
I'm the one
Yeah.
trying to bait people.
What do you think, Red? What are the ships?
I mean, you guys hit on the majority of it. Yeah, I do feel like refining, at least refueling and stuff, those are going to be critical as we start expanding beyond settled space. You know, we're going to need to extend our range, and they've got to have ships that'll support that. So,
Yeah. We're chomping down these. I'm going to pause the redemptions right now because we started at 11 questions and now we're on 11 questions. And we've answered 3 or 5, I think. So I'm pausing them now. This is what happens, you know. Unknown Guardian asks, I think now that the Mirai puts out another piece of racing machinery, that most, if not all, manufacturers should have a racer, even if it's not their lore. Also, all racing vehicles should have paints of different universal paints from different universal brands. Thoughts? I think CIG is now firmly moving the ships into the direction of vehicles, of like cars, rather than, you know, pure aerospace, or kind of a mixture of like aerospace and cars. And one of the things that is always fascinating when you look at the history of automobiles and automobile manufacturers is that early on in the 20th century, every car manufacturer had a racing team. Every car manufacturer had a racing team. Every single one. I think that's still somewhat today, but I mean, like, even like tiny mom and pop brands had a racing team. And Henry Ford was the main racer for the Ford racing team when it first came out. So like he was personally the driver for the Ford racing team. So like, yeah, I agree. I think every manufacturer should have a racing brand just because it's cool. It's neat. And
I
want
to see what Argos looks like.
Yeah, I want to see the Argo, and I want to see the Drake racer.
yeah,
the Cutlass Cutlass Fast Boy or whatever, you know.
yeah.
The Herald.
We have the Herald, but I mean like a maneuverable Herald, like a tiny Herald. Like,
right.
you know, because every Drake ship is a form of a Cutlass. So this is the Cutlass Fast. You know, the lawn chair strapped to an engine. With some winglets. So
I'm imagining just the pod racers, right? Yeah. That's it.
What do you think? Do you think they should have every manufacturer should have a racing brand?
I think maybe if it's not a ship themselves, but like a sponsored paint, like that would be. Yeah, I feel like that makes sense. We've got sponsors on, you know, current day racing that, you know, really don't have any business around vehicles that are still promoting their brand. So
I do wonder, does Caterpillar have a racing team?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I could see sponsors, but I don't know if Caterpillar is, you know, as probably the closest relation to Argo. I don't know if they're putting out any DTM or F1 cars or anything like that.
No, they sponsored. They don't sponsor anymore. 2 years ago, they sponsored a NASCAR car, but I don't think Caterpillar's making Formula Ones. Mac has it.
That's the thing is, like, some of the ship manufacturers don't exactly match car manufacturers. I guess really it's just Argo that falls into that.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what a consolidated Outland racer would look like.
Mustangs, right?
Yeah, they already have it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, like a dedicated racer, like the difference between like the M50 and a 350R kind of thing. I think.
But the Omega and the Gamma, come on, guys.
But it's still a Mustang, you know.
Yeah.
Gray Cat, yes, have Gray Cat racing team.
Oh yeah, Gray Cat's another one. Yeah.
They kind of have that with the Steve. They have the Steve, which is just kind of a racer. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Like Kruger has a racing team. Why not? You know, they've got the Merlin. So, all right, let's go with the next question. Okay, so Gin and Tonic has a question for you, but I'm going to preface this before I let you answer, because someone else said this is your version of the Redeemer, of your version of the Redeemer, which is my hatred of the Redeemer, I should say. This is your version, where Gin and Tonic asks your opinion of the Rock DS, and yeah, your opinion, Red Monster. And I will say before this, I have a meme that I pull up every so often, which is, you know, that cat that screams. It's like it's screaming at something, like meme that's in the void.
Yeah.
I have that cat screaming at a Rock DS that says, "Why do you exist?" Because that is still my brain. I get mad at the Redeemer. I am fundamentally befuddled, confused, and constantly like questioning my sanity as to why the Rock DS actually exists, because it doesn't make any sense in any universe at any time. So what is your thought of the Rock DS there, Red Monster? I want to hear this.
All right. So if you want to take something that's generally like kind of a mid-range activity for one player, and you want to distribute that work between two people who have to then go actively coordinate, because if the driver is moving while the turret operator is still trying to scoop things, you're trying to shoot a bullseye on a ship that's moving. And yeah, I feel like the Rock DS was designed for a gameplay system we never got to see. And honestly, it's taking the work of one person, it is splitting it across two people and making it half as fun. Right? The benefit really for the Rock DS is that the driver is in an enclosed space, so you don't have to worry about environmental effects. But you still have the turret operator who's out there just flying by the seat of their pants. Like, it has an increased cargo capacity. That's great. But you can go transfer all your gems into ship storage much easier than it is to switch between the driver's seat and the laser operator seat 6 times every time you get out. And the fact that it has to go into larger ships, I'm confused about why the ship exists. I bought one just to, like, in game. I generally don't advocate buying ground vehicles with real money, but like I bought one in game just so that I can have it in case anyone ever wants to know how useless it is, just to demonstrate. Because I honestly, to me the ship is useless.
Execute actually has a theory about it. Execute's theory is that it was built for Squadron. That it's built for a level in Squadron where you have to have, you're either driving someone around and they're mining, or you're mining and they're driving you around, as sort of like an event sort of thing. So it's like a tool built for an event mechanic. And then CIG just said, let's just put it in game. But I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. You've got to think, like, when they put in the cave systems, they were potentially having, drive-in caves where deposits would be up above where the regular rock, it's kind of focused on the ground in front of it. Yeah. We've just never seen a gameplay loop that made sense to make the Rock DS be a necessity. Yeah.
So,
I will say that we do know that it was created at the same time as the Rock, and CIG likes to put their lore, connect the lore with their with the actual like game as much as they can, or the actual development of the ship. So the lore behind the Rock and the Rock DS is that the DS was built first, but they couldn't get it ready for an event. So instead, they cobbled together parts of it to create a single-seater version, which became the Rock, and then they released the DS afterwards. And when I read that in the lore, I'm like, that's how it happened. They wanted to get the DS out, they couldn't, and so they built the Rock instead, and accidentally built a superior ship.
Man, I hope that you're right, Red. I hope that this is something that's built for gameplay we just haven't seen yet, and it will become useful, because if it's at the point where CIG is making fun of the vehicle as well, obviously it's a little bit in jest, and they know that we get a kick out of it, but like, they acknowledge our view of it. and we are early in this project. So I do hope that there is gameplay that was planned for it that just wasn't completed. And I really do hope that it's not like they made the vehicle and now they need to find gameplay for it.
I hate
Yeah,
when you do that.
that's the way I at least see it. Is there was something they were planning on doing, and it just never materialized there. So,
All right. We got 9 more questions. Forseti asks, do you think they will give the Connie a Dorito pass?
nah.
I don't think they're turning the Connie into a Dorito.
I think they like the shape of the Connie. It's an established form, and I mean we saw with I don't know if you remember the original Cutlass that looked just really anemic. They bolted out a lot more, but that was early days. I feel like the Connie is pretty well established, and it's I don't see them going through and reshaping it.
There's still plenty of ships with that design style: the Bengal, the Mantis, the Connie, the what's the other one I'm missing? The Aurora. Like they all kind of still have that long construction. I guess not so much the Mantis, but the segmented glass shaped cockpit. Like
the Mantis has that, and it's got the Apollo also. They all have the like nacelles. I call it the Star Trek aesthetic. It's the Star Trek.
Yeah.
The Star Trek RSI versus the Star Wars RSI. Star Trek RSI has got the nacelles and it's the glass and it's all like fun happiness, and the Star Wars RSI is the Death Stars, or not Stars, the Star Destroyers. They're all Doritos everywhere. So,
yeah, I think they'll keep the Connie the same.
I want to see more of the nacelle style. I love that style. Like it's a great little like appeal. So.
Well, you see that on the Zeus and some of the other ships they've got out. It kind of fits within the profile of the Dorito shape, but having those at least some separation looks really good.
Yeah, with the I think the Arastra, right? The Arastra has that kind of, it's a kind of a hybrid of those two styles. So I didn't even think about that too. The X-wings, it's got the Scorpius is also. It's like all of RSI's military style is the military style of RSI is heavily Star Wars inspired, and all of the civilian side is heavily civilian inspired, like Star Trek inspired, which is interesting.
Interestingly, though, the thrusters on the Scorpius are like the nacelles of the Mantis.
Yeah. And of course, you've got the Bengal, which is an RSI ship, which looks a lot more like the Connie than it does like
it's like a big Connie.
Yeah. So, all right. Gin and Tonic asks, anybody seen an NPC standing on a chair? I haven't. I have.
Nope.
In 3.23. I saw one. To be fair, I also saw an NPC standing on top of a crate. I don't know how they got there, but they're standing on top of a crate.
Everything.
But they were mobile.
Yeah. It was last Friday in EPTU. I was at I think this was live on 322. But I saw a bunch of NPCs on the row above the Astro Armada main sales deck. There was about 20 of them, all just like kind of huddled together along the same couple of benches. That was about it. I can't say that I've seen anybody on chairs in the current 323. So
yeah, saw one today just before we started the captain's table. I saw one on there, and I'm like, you can't. It's a biological need. They're just always to return to the chairs.
It must be there.
Yeah. Soul Citizens rated. Welcome everyone to Soul Citizens. How did the fundraiser go? That's a good question, because they were raising money for Buster, who was having a kind of a certain problem. Hopefully everything went well.
Nice.
That's fantastic. I gotta see if there's a link to help with that.
Yes. If you could post a link there, chat, anyone from Soul Citizens, if you have that link. So $1,020. Nice.
Very nice.
Good job. Awesome. It's good. All right. Moving on to the next question. Shimpasta asks, Master Modes has been polarizing for many reasons. One of the reasons Master Modes exist is to quote-unquote guide players into flying or fighting the way they want. Does this not go against their ethos of having players' choices, giving players choice? getting to realism and stepping one notch back and not artificially trying to guide this? That's a good question. I would personally say no, because I do think it's a little heavy-handed, but every game wants to tell you how to play it. Even games that are notoriously open and free form still have ways you play the game. Like Dark Souls teaches you how to play the game. And the way they want you to play the game is not always the way that you can play the game. But just because you can play the game in a different way doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't figure out a way to improve upon it or make it better or like make it work for you. I don't think Master Modes pigeonholes you into a position where you have to play a certain way. I think Master Modes just gives you the framework where this is how you're supposed to play. And if you're really talented, you can find ways around that framework to make it work. But I don't think we're quite there yet. So, what do y'all think? Can you
want to chime in?
Feel free to give Iris.
I'm going to take it the same way that we talked about. Gosh, was this on my podcast earlier? Talked about how the game is a bunch of different sections of gameplay that a lot of different people are focusing the most on. We focus a ton on ship combat right now because we've been doing almost exclusively ship combat, box deliveries, FPS combat, and mining for like 7 years. We got a little bit of salvage last year, but like those are our 4 things. Of those 4 things, you need specialized stuff to do mining, so take that out. FPS combat is okay, but you have to fly somewhere to do that, so that's not as fast. And cargo boxes have been broken most of the time. So ship combat's been one of the biggest things that we've focused on for the entirety of this game. And in the reality of things, most people probably won't be doing as much ship combat. A lot of people won't even be flying single combat ships. So I think the effect Master Modes has on the game overall right now feels more heavy than it's going to be in the long run. But I also agree that it is a heavy-handed way of shifting the gameplay into a direction that they want. It is taking away some player choice, and I'm a big fan of player choice, and I find that to be a bummer. But I also watched as they added that card that I will never forget into, I don't know what it was, maybe 315, 316, where they tried to limit high-speed combat, and it literally felt like nothing changed. Nothing happened at all. And like they sat there on it for a good year. They were like, okay, we're putting these things in. These are deterrents. We'll see if players work with them and it slows them down. And players were like, nah, screw that. I'm fast. And I was one of those players. And, maybe they could have done more to continue to try and push that. But I think at some point they were just like, you know what, we need to draw a line and in order to get what we want. And again, it's in ship combat. So it's not like it's changing the entire game, but it's a big segment. And I'm not gonna like pretend like it's not a limitation.
Yeah. I feel like having talked on this earlier in this, we've got the realistic simulation side, and then we bring it back to the cinematic side. And I feel like they want to be able to still provide that cinematic. It's not perfect where they want it yet. They're going to try and iterate, but it's definitely building the box around kind of what they envision the final phase to look like once it's all perfectly dialed, given a little bit more polish. So,
yeah. All right. This is a question for you from Steve the Dancer. I'm going to add to this as well. Steve the Dancer asks, Red Monster, how do you feel about mining in such a broken state? Both the mole and prospector having major issues. And I'm going to add on to that, as well as the whole sea basically not being fixed since its release. It's been broken since its release. How do you feel about just industry kind of feeling kind of like it's languishing right now? How's your feel on that?
Yeah, I feel describing it as languishing is probably pretty accurate. We had kind of the golden age of like the Quantanium clusters and where you could go out and reliably fill up on rocks. We had a rebalancing pass, redistributed all the materials, the amount you could get of a specific percentage, and the way that the rocks broke really changed. I feel like it's unfortunate because a lot of people that were really heavily enjoying mining up until the 3.18 patch, have been turned off of it. They're trying to build back up that interest, but I feel like it's going to be rough. It's not in the final state right now that they want it, and Thorsten's talked about that. We've got some other dependencies there. Honestly, you know, uh, I've got a newborn daughter. I've had to take a lot of time away from the amount of gaming that I used to do, and it couldn't have come at a better time with this change because it's kind of forcing me into trying out other game loops that I might not have been involved in, and I don't feel like I have to spend as much time in mining because the interest just hasn't been there. It's disappointing because they were so well polished game systems that people were really enjoying it. With salvage right now being really, really simple, that was a somewhat of a distraction, really. But moving forward, like they have the roadmap to make it work, and I think just they're testing things. They're trying to get feedback. We've provided that feedback. I've definitely had my fair share of say there. But yeah, it's. Yeah, I would say they're kind of in a disappointing state right now. Some of the recurring regulars, at least within my group that have done mining, just haven't touched it in months. So
I will say there is some cool stuff. Fully repaired damaged items is in game for 3.2, 3.1.
Mhm.
So for the repair gameplay, which basically means that if you have components that have taken down to 0 health, you should be repairable. Removing a fully damaged weapon or component with a tractor beam and using a repair tool should now function. So you can repair components from 0, which is neat, I think. But yeah, it's still a lot of problems.
I hope that works for the modules, gadgets, laser heads. I think one of the biggest frustrations right now is that everything you mine is explosive, and it's going to take out all of your equipment that you've spent at least a load and a half worth of material on. You're out there, and if you have a rock that breaks and blows off your modules, that might only be worth 100,000 credits, but it just cost you 300,000 credits in equipment. So that's where kind of the frustration comes in for a lot of folks doing industrial and salvage. Yeah, it was really easy money, and you became a Tetris master stacking boxes, and that's kind of where things have gone, focus wise, the last couple of patches. And I'd like to see them kind of find that balance back in and kind of in between.
Yep.
I do think salvage has risk because you're usually in locations where other players can come find you.
Yeah.
So.
And there's value in what you have. So,
Mhm.
Shimpasta asks, do you feel CIG should bring back the old altimeter on the ship's HUDs? Space Tomato, what do you think?
Not if it goes off the same distances, because it's not. It doesn't go to the ground, right? It goes to the center of the planet.
Yeah, same. I'm fine.
But there's still an altimeter in 323, no?
Yeah, it's just like on the bottom. It's just like a digital display rather than being like a list.
So,
I like being able to see
meter.
the tick marks scroll past. I'm haven't paid too much attention to the current, but
yeah.
I guess I do like that. Yeah, seeing the actual numbers scroll past like that. But overall, I just want it to actually tell me where the ground is.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's what chat's saying is AGL, radar. That's something that I think they'll do. That's one of those things that I think they mentioned it in Star Citizen Live that they're like looking at something like that, and that will need something like scanning to be done. So we'll see.
All right.
How far away do you think we will? Okay, so Ashwell asks, how far away do you think will be after we persist hangers to get our own habs? Oh, basically, how long do you think after we get persistent hangers we'll get our own persistent habs?
Mm-hmm.
I would say post 4.0. That feels like
definitely post 4.0.
It feels like a 4.0 level sort of thing.
I don't think we'll have that this time next year.
No. Red Monster, what do you think?
Yeah, I think hangers versus habs. Yeah, habs haven't really been on the roadmap yet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that comes along the same time as we're starting to do base building once we get that into players' hands.
I'd like to revise my
Similar.
answer.
What's that?
Whenever we get building interiors,
Okay.
I think that's how they're going to try and launch it. And that could be this time next year. But that building interiors definitely feels like a between 4.0 and 4.4. We'll see that because that feels like one of those things that they know they're going to do. And they've been talking about kind of like investigation missions, but
Yeah.
doesn't seem quite like an actual 4.0 feature.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I think building interiors is part of a larger update that they have to do to ground locations, taking like landing zones and turning them into cities, procedurally generated cities, but cities. And I think that has to be taken in hand with an ArcCorp update and everything else like that. And I think all of that,
Oh my God.
all of that has to be post Planetech V5 because that's what that team's working on right now. So
The idea of a ArcCorp rework sounds amazing.
it sounds terrifyingly amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds good, but it also sounds like something that a designer like wakes up in cold sweats about in the middle of the night.
First ArcCorp.
Yeah, like the first ArcCorp, which is still broken and still using old technology. So
Still makes him wake up in cold sweats.
yeah, yep. But I agree. Yeah, I think I mean CIG's already starting to add that. If you look at 4.0 or 4.0 3.23. One of the 3.23 patches, I woke up and I looked over and I saw like a sign on the wall, and then I realized I could hover over it. And when I hovered over it, you could pick it up off the wall and then replace it down at different points. So the posters that they tested a while ago are in the game, which is like, why would you have that if you couldn't use it for decorating? And someone asked it, like, is there a difference between them? Yeah, there's a difference between your hangar and an apartment. That's really what it is. It's like designed for living spaces and, a different style and everything. Similar idea, but, question, what is actually Planetech V5? We don't have a full understanding of what it is. I guess it's an overhaul of the system. But one of the things they talked about possibly adding to V5 was machine learning AI generated biomes and planets, where they can streamline the system by having an AI build most of the world for them and then go in afterwards and touch it up. But build like realistic, they just input a model, input an idea of what a planet is, and then have the AI come up with it. They showed it off at CitizenCon. So yeah.
It definitely feels less like a Planetech V4 shiny update thing and more like this is, now that we have this system built out, this is how we're gonna scale it out to multiple planets at a time or something like that.
Yeah.
But I do think maybe we'll see things like possibly lava, maybe some better dynamic weather, and they might fold the big caves update into that because they want to have all the caves look more like the sand caves do now. So maybe that'll be part of it too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I want a lava planet.
Yeah. I want fire tornadoes. Like I had that in Helldivers. I'm like, yeah, give it to me.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Fire tornadoes.
Exactly.
Give me a hurricane. I want to see a hurricane hit. What's the city that's on the Lorville?
You haven't gone through like Microtech moons? Those are practically hurricane level.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't see anything. You land and suddenly you're being tossed around like a rag doll, and everything looks normal.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, or of course the needs to rain in ArcCorp because I need to get that noir feel to it. That Blade Runner feel. All right, we got 3 questions left. Shempasta asks, in master modes, each mode has various sub-modes. For example, SCM mode has guns, missiles, and scans. Will this make the power triangle obsolete?
So, sorry, can we repeat that question? The power triangle being obsolete because of master modes? Okay.
I don't think so.
No, I think it's still, you're talking about working within the, like switching master modes, it basically disables your weapons and shields, right? But you're going to need to have while you're in combat, you're still going to need to balance that, right? Your shields go down, you've got to prioritize there. I don't think, I actually think it becomes more critical because you're going to have a harder time escaping. if you're managing your power triangle properly, maybe that's going to give you like the extra boost you need to get the range, and then transition to quantum travel mode and get out. So,
So the specific question is, are the two modes going to change things, or are operator modes going to change things?
It basically is the fact that they have sub modes going to be completely remove power triangles. I think what Shimpas is getting at is like, why do you need to balance all of those things when you have to literally switch from one mode to another? So like, why would you have to worry about guns, like missiles systems or like guns systems or thrusters? The way that the power triangle works now, when you literally have to switch to like guns to scanning to all those sorts of things.
Well, when you're in scanning, you could still put like power towards your thrusters and use your guns in SCM, so you could balance that stuff. Granted, in the navigation mode, though, yeah, you don't need to put power towards your shields and stuff like that. I think that more the reason for operation modes is so that they can split out roles into different seats, so that you can have somebody who's in the missile operator mode in your co-pilot seat, and they can switch between those and other places. I think it's kind of a part of it that we're getting it in all of the seats together, but it feels like a very multi-crew focused kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Each of the modes it also feels like a multi-crew thing where like you can have different people doing different jobs at the same time. But I don't think we're going to see that sort of power management go away because, if your shields go down, but your engines and your I don't think you can fire your weapons in it in flight mode. But you can fire your weapons in flight mode, or you can get it into to engines. And so putting all your energy into engines will get you to go faster.
Yeah,
I think
it's a macro. It's like you have to kind of macro micromanage your systems. We're like, I need to go make sure I dump everything into to engines as I go into to flight mode, and I'll go faster. More boost.
Yeah, I do think when you go into quantum mode, whatever that is, that's where the power management triangle probably becomes irrelevant. But while still in SCM or nav mode, it's still very valid and required.
Yeah. We're also seeing it evolve because it's going to evolve from where it is now with the resource system. The resource system is going to completely change how we manage systems beyond just power, but also heat, because you're going to have heat buildup, which you're going to need to diffuse. Otherwise, it's going to break your systems. So please make your coolers actually mean something. Gosh, please.
One of the resources is coolant.
Mm-hmm. Coolant, power, and there's another one I'm thinking off of. It's battery? Oxygen. It's atmosphere, right? Atmosphere.
I think data, they said, also is going to be something that can be transferred
managed and transferred.
Components.
Ashwell asks, in the last ISC, they displayed a rifle scope with a green filter. Do you think this is the night vision coming, or is that a decorative hint? I think that's night vision. I think that's their first version. They said they said it was in testing. So
yeah, I remember seeing that one specifically, and it looked a little muddy. Honestly, I wasn't super thrilled with that mode, but they did have the brightness enhancement that they showed during like CitizenCon with the updated optics. I feel like that, kind of the light amplification is definitely more critical than kind of the green filter on top of just what's really dark anyways. So,
I don't remember what I was going to say. I was going to say something that it kind of flooded off my brain. So we'll move on to the last one. Last question comes from Midnight Black SC, who asks, we're about a half a year away from the last CitizenCon. How do you feel about Chris's promise that you'll get all of these features out by the next one? Pretty solid.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job.
They did say like base building wasn't one part of that, and there's definitely some hints that like some stuff wasn't fully going to be there. But I think I have
a working list on Google Drive of the things that they said would be there and the things that they've been delivering, and so far they're doing pretty good. I don't know if they're halfway through, but they're close.
Yeah.
There's a Like
Yeah, for sure.
24 out of 57 features promised have already been delivered. Like,
Yeah,
there was something along those lines.
it's pretty good. Plus
Yeah,
more
yeah.
features which are going to be delivered with 3.23 later down the pipe rather than this one.
It's definitely an absolute monumental improvement over other years when it comes to CitizenCon stuff.
I've got one more question to add for all of y'all. Do you think Maelstrom is going to make it for 4.0?
No.
Do you think
Well,
you think CIG's hoping for it to get for 4.0?
I mean, maybe on the Gladius.
Maybe the Gladius.
I would really hope so, but I mean, that's I'm guilty of a lot of copium,
Hopium.
and
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's going to be ready for 4.0.
Yeah.
But,
I
yeah.
feel like that's one of those CIG hopes it's ready, but probably won't be kind of thing. Like,
If anything, like experimental, maybe.
maybe. Yeah.
Maybe experimental. It'll be in limited phases, but there's no way they're going to have it fully implemented across everything, right? It's
Yeah.
that's
no way.
that's gonna be a long ways out.
Yeah.
I do think
Which sucks because, yeah, like there's salvage and mining. There's definitely use cases to put it in there, especially for large scale mining. You know, using the Arastra and the Orion, absolutely going to be able to take advantage of it. But yeah, that's way out there.
I do think that I've seen a lot of members of the community being very like, oh yeah, engineering is going to take a year for it to come out. I don't think so. I think CIG's shooting for 4.0 for engineering.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
And it's clear if anybody who watches reads the monthly reports, it's very clear that CIG is just like engineering. It's like they rigged up like 10 different ships in April alone with engineering.
This last monthly report had like 5 different teams talking about their resource network work.
Yeah. And it was all different teams, and the only time CIG does stuff like that is when they're like sprinting on it. There's a sprint. There are multiple sprints, obviously, but like there's a deadline. Like they have a idea that like they want it to get in for time soon, and the only next batch other than 3.23.2, which I don't think is going to make it in, or 1 or 2, 2, is going to be 4.0. So,
Do you think that it's going to be on all ships?
Yeah, I think it's all ships.
Jeez, that's going to take some reworks, huh? I guess they got the freelancer done.
I don't think it's going to be that.
You've got to imagine they foresaw some of these requirements coming in and have had placeholders in ships where they've at least seen the writing on the wall. Kind of doing a little bit of future proofing. But I mean, I'm don't have any behind the scenes knowledge there at all.
I have a feeling that what they're going to do is fuse system. The fuse system is going to be manufacturer specific. So they'll make a Drake fuse system. They'll make a Crusader fuse system so they can just integrate it into the walls of their ships. So
Drake
it's not
uses mostly duct tape.
Yeah. A used penny. You were to say something, Tomato?
I was just going to say, I think from the Terrapin on, they've got decent component layouts in the ships. So maybe any ship after that it's fairly easy to put some new relays in as well.
Yeah. I think that's the keys. I don't think engineering is going to be in depth and crazy. I think it's going to be fuses and shooting healing beams at components with more power management. That's all it is. It's a little bit more advanced than we have right now in the experimental mode with the A2, and with a little bit more stuff that's about as complex as the first version is going to be, I think. So, but yeah. All right, that's the last question. Thank you to Space Tomato and Red Monster for coming in. Again, without these two volunteering to step up for this one, this wouldn't have happened. And I think it's turned into a very fun and engaging and very in-depth talk about the future of Star Citizen. And I couldn't have had two better guests than you two to talk about it, coming from the perspectives y'all do. So,
stop it.
Always fun to speculate.
Yeah. I like speculating with people like y'all who pay attention to the mechanics in game right now and what CIG is actually talking about and doing, because it's a lot easier to kind of like, because you're kind of gonna get that grounded idea of where CIG is based off of where they are now and where they will be. So but yeah, check out Red Monster SC, Twitch and YouTube, Space Tomato on Space Tomanato on on YouTube and Twitch. Which he's what he's doing right now is he's making that account on YouTube for with that name, so you can grab it.
Working it in right now, yeah.
Check out Space Tomato, and I will. If you enjoy this, hit that follow button. Subscribe to us on Twitch. Subscribe to us on Twitch. You can do that. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and check us out live, twitch.tv/TheAstropub, youtube.com/TheAstropubLive. You can also subscribe to us on Spotify. Make sure you follow us there. Leave a rating. It really does help because it does promote the podcast a little bit more. And it gives, for those of you who don't know, we are on Apple we're on Apple, Google, Spotify, all of the different platforms. So if you are in a place where you want to like a little bit low latency, you just want to hear our dulcet voices, then you can check it out there. And yeah, thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.